Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the June 5th meeting of the Board of Selectmen Sewer Commissioners. We actually opened our meeting at 6 p.m. and we had an executive session. So we will begin with asking you to mute, vibrate, or turn the volume down on your cell phones as not to be disruptive to the meeting. And I would ask the clerk to begin with the announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Spinney Library is going to close temporarily. The Friends of the Wareham Free Library announced that the last day it will operate the Spinney Memorial Library will be June 2nd, so the town can prepare to take the operation over. Spinney will reopen as a full-service branch of the Wareham Free Library in early July. A grand opening ceremony is being planned and details will be announced in the near future. The Friends are currently working with the town of Wareham to transfer the deed after town meeting voters voted to accept the facility in April. The library staff will be working throughout the month of June to purchase new books and materials and to set up the sales system to provide interlibrary loan services. Anyone who currently holds a Wareham Free Library card will be able to use that card at the new branch. Others can apply for the free library cards at Spinney when it reopens or at the main library during its regular hours. A library card will be needed to borrow materials and use the internet and computers. Watch the local media for summer programs and events that will be held at Spinney. Last Thursday, we had all our questions regarding scouting answered by Sharon Boyer. Those who weren't there missed a great presentation. This week, we anticipate that Derek Sullivan will update us on the impact of the town meeting decisions on the budget for FY13. The Friends of Wareham Basketball annual fundraising golf tournament will be held at Little Harbor Country Club Monday, June 25th. Shotgun start at 12 o'clock. Cost is $75 per person with dinner immediately to follow. Please join us for a great time and to help support a worthy cause. You can contact Harry Irving at 508-295-6229 or 508-273-5591. The Wareham Village Association monthly meeting will be held the second Thursday of the month at 5:30 p.m. at 245R Main Street, the Wareham Village Association office. Light refreshments will be available and all are invited to attend. If you plan to join us, please send an email to wva2012@gmail.com for a copy of the monthly agenda. The Wareham Village Association was established in 1996, is a nonprofit organization focused on improving Wareham Village. For more information, please visit the Wareham Village Association website or call 508-291-3677. Mezzaluna Restaurant will be in collaboration. Well, hold on, let me start over. A collaboration of the Wareham Village Association, Onset Bay Association, and the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce invites you to an annual fireworks fundraiser at the Mezzaluna Restaurant on Thursday, June 7th. At the Mezzaluna Restaurant, an entrance donation of $10 is requested. Complimentary hors d'oeuvres will be served, and there will be a cash bar. An auction, 50-50 raffle, and other gift raffles are being planned for the event by the Fireworks Committee that has representatives from all of the organizations. If you are unable to attend but wish to contribute to the Fireworks Fund, please make checks payable to Town of Wareham Fireworks Fund, P.O. Box 799, Onset, Mass. 02558. Let's see. We hope everyone is having a good winter. Make the best of the mild season we've had. Every Thursday from 5:30 p.m. into the evening, inside the shop and the parking lot at AJW 16 Kendrick Road, Unit 1 in Wareham. The activities will be fun-filled car gatherings in a laid-back setting, product specials, free food, tuning, and more. Not every week will have all these features. We will announce the week leading to the event what will be going on. And this Saturday and Sunday will be the 24-hour Little League game. Saturday at 11 a.m. You will find yours truly available in the dunk tank for your pleasure. For a small donation to a good cause, you'll have the opportunity to sink me. And at 11:30, Mr. Chairman will be offering himself up to be dunked. We assume the lines will be long, so get there early. 11. What about Steve? Yes. You want him more than me. We also anticipate that Mr. Slavin and Mr. Teitelbaum may make an appearance in the dunk tank as well as some of the Little League coaches and who knows who else. So come on down to the Little League field. This is your chance, folks. My husband has been saving his money for weeks for this, so when I say get there early, I really mean it. And Mr. Foster was planning on attending too, I understand. That is all the announcements, Mr. Chair. We are now on to citizens' participation. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Teitelbaum, did you have any announcements? Mr. Slavin?
No, thank you.
Mr. Holmes?
I just want to reiterate that Saturday, Mrs. Winslow will be sitting on in a dunk tank. And I'm certainly sure the lines will be a lot longer for her. But it's charity, folks, so please stop by, throw a ball, whatever it's going to cost. We'll get wet for charity. This is a great event for the Little Leaguers. They had a great year last year with the 24-hour baseball, and it'd be fun to come out and watch some games, too. So I'm looking forward to dunking Mrs. Winslow myself.
Yes, the smiles in the audience could probably light the entire town. Mr. Holmes, thank you. Mrs. Begley, would you like to announce who you'll be dunking? Or
Okay. Is that citizens' participation? Would anyone like to speak before the board this evening? Ma'am? Come right up. Give us your name and speak right into that microphone and make sure the green light is on.
It is on.
Okie dokie.
My name is Phyllis Dekas. I'm the board member of the Wareham Village Association, and I'm here because I wanted to find out if you folks, as a board of selectmen, had any questions or any concerns about our request to use a portion of Bessie Park for a pumpkin patch. I know I spoke to the town administrator, and I believe he brought it up at one meeting, and I'm here because, as you realize, the seeds need to be planted very soon, the first full moon in June. So I didn't know if you had any questions or any concerns, or if I could help you
No,
in any way.
I don't think there were any that I can recall. There was something about historic. Was historic looking at that?
Yeah, we're just waiting for an answer back from the Historic District Commission, since it's in the Historic District, and anything that's visible to the public they have to approve, so that should be very shortly taken care of.
Okay. And you understood it's for a community event for families to plant the seeds, and then we'll have the big pumpkin in October where they can pick their pumpkin, carve it, and we'll have a little event down there in the park. So I
no
just was-
dunk tanks, though, right?
Well, if you're successful at this one, that might be that might be a good fundraiser for Okay, thank
Do you have any,
Thank you.
Phyllis, do you have any special seeds that you know are going to grow the biggest pumpkin? Because I'd like to buy those.
Would you? Well,
Because she's going to turn around and buy seeds, too. So that'll be a problem if she wins.
so you're telling me
I
who I
think,
should go
you know,
to first?
we'll probably be competing the whole board. We'll have a little section there
Okay,
to see who gets the biggest pumpkin.
okay.
Can we, John, could you just follow up on that and get an answer from them as quickly as we can?
I know Anthony, Frangiatis, who's the president,
Right.
has spoken to him, and she said everything was fine, but unfortunately she's on her way back from New Hampshire, so she couldn't be here.
Okay.
But if he could follow up, and I will do as well. So.
Sure.
Okay,
And we'll,
thank
put
you.
it on for next week to get it finalized. Is that okay?
Okay, good.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Ma'am?
My name is Diana Taylor. I'm here to try to ascertain whether or not there is a date for cleanup at 118 Sandwich Road.
I'm looking around. Do we have a date? Mr. Foster, do you know?
Yeah, there was a group meeting in attendance, members from the Board of Health, the health agent, the building inspector, and town council, and they are working on, they're establishing a committee. The attorney outlined some of the items that they needed to do. Miles Burke is now in charge of this committee and getting that project taken care of. There is no date that I'm aware of for the cleanup.
Would we have it done? Is it reasonable to think we're going to have it done before June 30th?
That was the intentions.
Because of the money.
Board, right, exactly.
Right.
It was a matter of using the money before it expires.
So the intent is to have the cleanup completed before June the 30th
That
of
was-
2012.
Correct.
Oh,
That
yes,
was the
ma'am.
intent.
This month.
No, this month, because
month.
Okay.
we have the funds available to do that now.
Because there's vermin now on the property.
Yes.
passersby are throwing their litter and their trash, et cetera, et cetera. So I need it to be done soon. It's been 18 months.
I don't blame you.
Thank you.
My name is Maureen Andrews. I live on 4 Brown Street, and I sent out a letter to the selectmen with concerns. Speeders, I've contacted the police, I've contacted the road commissioner, the municipal maintenance department, and they all told me to address the selectmen, which I did send out a letter, and I was wondering if I could get put on the agenda so that we could discuss my concerns.
What was the street again, ma'am? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Brown Street.
Brown
Mhm.
Street.
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. Winslow?
I believe typically, I thought I saw someone forward that email on. Usually the request is forwarded to the police for a recommendation. When the recommendation comes back to us, although now we do have the road commissioners in place, that's when the recommendation is made. So it does need to go. If your email wasn't forwarded, Mr. Town Administrator, did you get a copy of that email too?
We received an email from a resident regarding speed bumps or, different resident.
Okay.
I haven't seen this one.
Did you write down the address that she's...
4 Brown Street.
Okay, so would you mind just making the formal, I mean, I see the chief in the audience, but would you mind making the formal request to the chief for them to give us their recommendation?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Chief Stanley is 3 rows back in the yellow tie, ma'am. He's shaking his head right now, Sam.
He's trying to
Chief.
figure out how much he can spend
He's
trying to
get
dunk
your
me.
attention. Is there anyone else? Ma'am, please. Good evening.
Hi,
How are
Sharon
you?
Gomes, Oakdale Betterment. The people want to know where we're at with having the meeting on sometime in July.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Campino is here. He's here somewhere. We're going to be discussing that in a few minutes. But we did finalize the date. I don't want to steal his thunder. He was sitting right over there. Guy, we did get the 14th, right? 14th, yes. It's going to be on July the 14th.
July 14th.
Yeah.
Another question that I keep on being asked, some elderly people can't make it to the meeting, but they watch it on TV. They're asking why was contract 2 estimated at 21 and 22 and coming in at 21 when contract 1 was estimated at 19 coming in at 15. And they wanted me to specifically ask you those questions. They were sorry that they could not meet here because they're elderly and they go to bed at 8.
Okay. And we'll have those. I don't have an answer off the top of my head, but we'll make sure that that question is answered. Now, are they going to have you think that people will have difficulty getting there on the Saturday?
I hope
as
not.
well?
Is the meeting supposed to be on a Saturday?
It is a Saturday, yes.
It is a Saturday.
Yes.
Okay.
No, it's a Saturday morning, not a Saturday night.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I was thinking about that this week. I think it'd probably be good if we can get the cable folks to televise that live.
Okay.
I was going to put that request in. Do you think that would be helpful, Mrs. Combs?
That would you be holding it in the town hall or
It's
here?
going to be, across the street here.
Okay. All right. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Or Mrs. Combs, when contacting the cable company, they may recommend the,
Auditorium. Yeah.
I want to say the high school, but not the high school, the middle school, because I think they're already established with their television
Right.
performance, right?
Okay.
So if they want to have it there because it's more convenient for them with their crews, then we may have it there. But it'll be right here in either one of these buildings.
You're going to give notice too,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Okay.
We're going to be discussing that in about a half an hour.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, seeing no more hands, we are on to the Westfield discussion.
Right. Status of the RFP. The only discussion we have. Mr. Foster, did that go out? Do you know? You're pointing somewhere else.
The last action that I'd taken was to email it to the chairman because we need the dates on there because the dates need to be revised. And
We did this last week.
you did this last week.
No, the week before.
I'm sorry, the week before. 2 weeks ago.
The dates were revised 2 weeks ago.
Well, no, whatever you were going to post it, whatever those dates were from that date, using the original, just plug the dates in.
So how much, I guess, is the
The
guidance-
original contract had dates.
Correct.
Correct. So in the new RFP, it's just changing the dates. You're going to post it on X date. It's going to be 30 days X date. 30 days X date. It's the same thing.
Okay, that's.
Yeah, I thought we did this 2 weeks
I
ago.
thought you'd have to vote and say we want to do it for 30 days or 90 days out. It's
No, I would entertain a motion to just revise the dates by the posting date as the original RFP, if I could get a motion. Have
Second.
a motion made and seconded. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
and we can get it out tomorrow.
500. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Mr.
Next.
Moving on to the consent agenda, we have a bill from Blattman, Brabowski, and Mead, LLC. I make a motion to approve and pay invoice number 7660, dated May 21st, 2012, in the amount of $15,000.
A motion made. Second by Mrs. Begley. Question?
Yes, Mr.
Yes, it
Slavin.
is. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 500.
Mr. Chair, we have the interviews and appointments to the Conservation Commission. We have John Conley. Is John here tonight?
Mr. Conley, good evening.
Good evening, all. How are you?
Good.
Since we started with Mr. Teitelbaum last time, would it be appropriate to start with Mrs. Begley this time?
That would be fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Begley.
I'm not sure that I have any questions for you, Mr. Conley, because you've been on the Conservation Commission for some time.
Yes.
You're currently the chair.
Yes.
How long have you been the chair?
This is my second year. We're about to come around for a reorganization.
So you reorganize every year, or?
Yeah.
Okay. I have no questions. It seems that you kind of found your niche. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
You are a U.S. citizen, correct?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Let's hope so. Well, what has been your pleasure serving on the board? If you want to just take a couple of minutes and tell us what you feel you've succeeded. Some of the successes of the board.
I can't say personally I've done it myself. The whole board works
Well, that's
together.
what I mean.
And since I've been there, we've come up with the dock issues. Right now, we're working on cleaning up some of our properties, getting two more of them back online that we're working on right now.
Good.
How are you, John?
Good, you?
I think that Walmart, there was something just came up recently, I think today, that the DEP came in for a revaluation of the Conservation Commission ruling. I don't think the public knows that, so there's a 30-day period coming up now, I believe.
Yes. I talked to David this morning. I was out of town today with my other hat. And he was supposed to get back to me this afternoon. I haven't heard from him yet. Because he was going to go through the walkthrough and give me a call and let me know what's going on. I haven't had a chance to see if, if my vice chair went. I haven't seen her, so. But I will find out tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I was there. It's okay.
Okay.
We'll have a little wait on this one. Anything at all as far as the Conservation Commission, as far as things you might need going forward from the board, from the town itself?
I don't know. I mean, we've had a good rapport with all the boards before, and we seem to do pretty good. We're looking towards the future. Right now, we step back and we're doing a little regroup so we can clean up some of our areas, because it's been a little bit since we got to clean them all up. So we're working on that now. And the new one over on that we just achieved, we're getting ready to do some work in there. So we'll have a grand opening in there hopefully soon.
Well, thank you very much for your long service, and
Thank you.
if we can be of any help, just let us know at any time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Slavin kind of stole my thunder by asking if there was anything you needed. You responded to that, so I don't have any questions for you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conley.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Next, we have Mrs. Slavin. Mr. Slavin's going to recuse himself because, as we all know, Mrs. Slavin is Mr. Slavin's wife. He's a lucky guy.
Thank you. Good evening, Sandy Slavin.
Mrs. Begley.
Oh, we're going to stay in the same, I guess. How are you, Sandy?
I'm fine, and you, Ellen?
Very well, thanks. So you're vice chair.
Yes.
So with reorganization, it's kind of like the garden club, Sandy, so you'll be
You
chair
sort of
next?
like you pass it around so that we try to change the chair every 2 years to give that experience across the members of the committee.
Uh-huh. So who was chair prior to Mr. Conley?
Mr. Baptiste,
Oh,
and
good.
before that, Mr. Westgate.
Great, awesome.
Did I get it right? Thank you.
Great. So how long, you've been on this board, 4 years?
I came on an associate in 08, 09, something like that, then moved up to a regular one in later on that year. So it's been the 3 years.
Okay, great, thanks. How many committees are you on? Come on, give it up.
If we count Westfield RFP 6,
But you'll have more time because you're finally finished with your 6-year tenure with the Garden Club.
yes,
As an officer.
I have stepped down as president of the Garden Club. I've had my 2 years, but I'll be the assistant treasurer, and I will be the Southeast District director in another year. So I'm still staying very much involved in the Garden Club, which is where I was today at the annual meeting. So I didn't make the Westfield, the Walmart discussion. But hey,
Yep.
you got the time, you do the time.
That's right. Thanks, Sandy.
Yeah, thanks, Ellen.
And
Yes, I am a citizen.
thank you. Mr. Chair.
Sandy, how are you this evening? I don't have any questions for you. Thank you for your service.
Yes, all I can say is thank God you're a volunteer, because with all you do, we sure as hell couldn't afford to pay you. Thank you
Oh,
very
well, thank
much.
you. I just wanted to follow up on one thing. One of the things we're doing is that the town of Wareham holds the conservation restrictions for several properties, and we are going out and doing stewardship review of those properties, and that's what John was referring to. So we're going out and walking those properties and reporting back to the owner of the property, whether it be the land trust or the Audubon or something like that. So that is something that we're doing to just continue to watch over our open space
Great.
and our waterfront. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Mr. Mark Carboni. Mark?
Is Mark here?
I
Not
don't
yet.
see him. Maybe we can get him next week. Okay, so that would be our reappointment interviews for this evening. We'll see if the office can get in touch with Mr. Carboni and advise us. He did say he wanted to be reappointed, so. Next, we have appointments to JTPG and SERPED.
Yeah, on the Joint Transportation Planning Group, I put myself, I took Mr. Cruz's place with Mrs. Begley as the alternative.
So moved.
On SERPED, I took Walter's place, and he had an alternate there, so I put Mr. Slavin down, if that's okay with the board. Okay.
So, Ms.
And then we'll get the paper. I'll give that to Janet, and she'll get that paperwork all filled out tomorrow.
do we need to make a motion on that, or are you just appointing?
I think that's fine. As long as nobody has, as long as Mrs. Slavin's willing to do it, I guess. I didn't ask him. Are you
Okay.
willing to do that? No problem. I think it was on your list that I asked for.
Okay.
He had put that down.
This is always my favorite part of a meeting. We have Lieutenant Walsek here. Yes? Are you going to do this? Okay. He has them. It's magic.
Oh my God, we didn't do anything wrong, did we? Chief.
Good evening. One of my duties with the Wareham Police Department for the town of Wareham is Emergency Management Director. And when I first came here, we discussed about emergency management issues and the critical need, especially in the coastal community. We, at that point in time, reached out to the Wareham Fire Department, the Onset Fire Department. We reached out to the Harbor Master's Office, EMS, and I was able to bring on a couple of people as assistants. I brought on Lieutenant John Walsek and Dave Evans from Emergency Medical Services. I also have Vice Chairman of the Local Emergency Planning Committee, Pat Haskell from the Wareham Fire Department. This was truly, and Gary Buckminster is involved as well from Harbor Master, the efforts that were put forth over the last couple of years have truly been yeoman efforts on the part of a team. As we come into hurricane season, I'm sure that residents, in fact we have a large-scale meeting on Thursday, but I'm sure that residents will see and should know that the preparation levels are at the highest. We could not do this alone, the town of Wareham. We reached out to a couple of groups for assistance. One of the groups was Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, and with us we have the person in charge of Region 2, Doug Forbes, who is going to make a presentation to you, Mr. Chairman, and the members of the Board of Selectmen. And also, through the efforts of Mass Maritime Academy, we were able to seize the opportunity to bring on a couple of interns who are students of emergency management who will in fact be introduced shortly. In the effort that they put forth and the work that they did on a daily basis for so long to get us up to this point has been remarkable. None of us could have done this without them. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Doug Forbes from MEMA.
Good evening, Mr. Forbes, and welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here tonight. The Wareham Local Emergency Planning Committee is to be commended for their hard work and dedication. Thanks to their efforts, Wareham is a stronger and safer place in which to live and to work. I'd like to share just a short portion of a letter from our state director. Dear Chief Stanley, on behalf of the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency and the State Emergency Response Commission, I am pleased to inform you that the Wareham Local Emergency Planning Committee application for startup certification has been approved. Please accept the enclosed certificate to commemorate your achievement. Sincerely, Kurt Schwartz, Director, Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency. Congratulations, Chief.
Just go ahead.
if you could stay standing, Mr. Chairman. Again, the people who deserve the most credit is the guy handing you the plaques right now, Lieutenant John Walsek, who has in the past been a firefighter. In fact, I think his heart is torn. It's half red and half blue. But he has such a deep commitment to emergency management that it's amazing. It's 24/7 with this guy when it comes to all facets of it. It was his idea to really push as hard as we did, and all I did was have to support him. It was his idea to reach out to Mass Maritime Academy, and we've had the privilege to know a couple of young men whose future is extremely bright, and I'll ask them to step forward with John. Jeremy Letson and Kyle Steek.
Steve. Okay. The Board of Selectmen of Wareham, Massachusetts awards the Certificate of Recognition to Kyle Steek for your dedicated service in assisting in the formation of the first local emergency planning committee in the town of Wareham. As a result of your efforts and assistance, the town of Wareham will now have the first certified local emergency planning committee. Your effort has better prepared the town of Wareham with the ability to deal with a large-scale emergency incident. We, the Board of Selectmen, on behalf of the town and representatives of the community, wish to commend and thank you for your professionalism, dedication, and service to the town of Wareham. Signed this 5th day of June, 2012, the Wareham Board of Selectmen, Stephen M. Holmes, Chairman, Kara A. Winslow, Clerk, Ellen M. Begley, Alan H. Slavin, and Peter W. Teitelbaum. The Board of Selectmen of the town of Wareham awards the Certificate of Recognition to Jeremy Letson for your tireless efforts in updating the town of Wareham's comprehensive emergency management plan, which has been inspected and certified by the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency. Your effort has better prepared the town of Wareham with the ability to deal with a large-scale emergency incident. We, the Board of Selectmen, on behalf of the town and representatives of the community, wish to commend and thank you for your professionalism, dedication, and service to the town of Wareham. Signed this 5th day of June, 2012, the Wareham Board of Selectmen, Stephen M. Holmes, Chairman, Kara A. Winslow, Clerk, Ellen M. Begley, Alan H. Slavin, and Peter W. Teitelbaum. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chair, moving on under licenses and permits, we had a 7:15 p.m. hearing for Bay Point Country Club LLC. Is there anybody here from Bay Point? I move to open the public hearing at 7:35 p.m.
Motion made in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 500.
The hearing is now open. Bay Point Country Club LLC, Sean R. Crump, manager of 10 Bay Point Drive, Onset, Mass., has applied to the Board of Selectmen for a seasonal common vic all alcoholics beverages license under the provisions of Chapter 138 of the Massachusetts General Laws for the year 2012. Can you state your name for the record and tell us what you're looking for?
Yes, my name is Sean Crump. I am the president of Stone Street Hospitality Corporation, and I'm looking for a seasonal liquor license in our event center or pavilion building, as it's been referred to at Bay Point.
Okay.
Questions from the board, Mr. Titlebaum?
I don't have any questions for this applicant.
Mr. Slavin?
No questions at this time.
Mrs. Begley?
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Does this, just because I'm kind of glancing at, this is it. Is the number of patrons remain the same?
Number of patrons remain the same.
Okay, so there's no change in the physical layout whatsoever. And this license is for Sunday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 a.m.
Correct.
And has the delay compared to the other one been the result of renovation? Was the building renovated?
We've been doing renovations to the building, both exterior as well as interior, but no physical changes to the building in terms of square footage or changes to the amount of event space, I guess you'd say.
So all of this would be indoors?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Winslow?
Mr. Chair, I don't have any questions for the applicant, but we do need, every time there's an application, we need a copy of that TIPS.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not here.
I'm sorry that it's not.
No, that's okay, but whatever, if we make a motion in the affirmative tonight, it's going to be contingent upon you bringing a copy of that for the file.
Okay.
So, everything else is here, thank you, but we keep a copy of that.
As you know, we've been here a bunch recently, and
Yes.
that's my fault. We've given a copy to the office, but I should have followed up with it.
Every application, so we appreciate that. That way, if ever there's a question.
Right. Thank you.
And would anyone like to speak in favor or opposition of the application? Seeing none, I accept the motion to close the hearing.
Mr. Slavin has a...
Just one point. On the new checklist that we have, the new license checklist, maybe we should have the tips there.
Yeah, it's not on
It's not on there.
Oh, okay.
Probably solve the issue.
Well, that's okay, but, yeah. I make a motion to close the hearing for Bay Point Country Club LLC at 7:38.
Second.
A motion made in second on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? 500. Mrs. Winslow?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the application from Bay Point Country Club LLC, Sean Crump, manager, for a seasonal common vic, all alcoholic beverages for the year 2012, contingent upon him producing a copy of his tip certificate for the file.
I have a motion made and seconded. Anything else on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? 500.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations,
Good luck.
Sean.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Okay, Mr. Chair, we have the withdrawal of pledge of liquor license from Quahog Republic. And
Right.
can I just say there's been an awful lot of confusion. I got a lot of phone calls. There's been a lot of discussion on various websites. The Quahog Republic has requested us to do this. This had to do with how they originally financed their operation. They no longer need this. This is strictly a procedural matter. It does not impact their operation in any way, shape, or form. We're not taking anything away from them. Therefore, I make a motion that we withdraw the pledge of liquor license from Quahog Republic.
I have a motion made. Second by Mr. Titlebaum on the question. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? 500.
Next, we have the renewal of earth removal permit for Highland Inc. Is there anybody here representing?
Oops. Good evening. If y'all could introduce yourself, be sure to speak directly into the microphone, please.
My name is Leonard Bello, and I'm here on behalf of Highland Inc. I'm an attorney in the town of Wareham.
Good evening, Mr. Bellison. How are you? Good. It's good to see you again.
Okay. Good evening, John Churchill, JC Engineering, representing Highland Inc. as well.
Mr. Churchill, how are you this evening?
Doing very well, thank you.
Good. Good. Okay. This is for a renewal. You have anything you want to open with? This is a
As far as I know, this is scheduled for the 3-year renewal. We were here in 2006. The license was initially granted. It was renewed in 2009, and it's now 2012. I believe the license is due to expire somewhere around June 16th.
Yep.
So you've scheduled it for us to appear.
correct.
As far as we know, there have been no complaints or issues with the license. At least none have been brought to our attention. So we know of no issues, so I don't know of anything to bring up to you other than we're proceeding as in normal course and believe we've adhered to the conditions. I know we were here in November. There was a meeting scheduled. We appeared. It ended up turning out that we weren't supposed to be here, or no one knew why we were here. It was taken off the list. At the time, John was asked to make monthly reports, and I'm told that he has done that at your request since that time.
Okay. Mr. Titlebaum, any questions?
You're not seeking to change or alter any of the conditions. I guess there are 17 of them here that were put into effect in 2008. You're looking to stick with the same set?
That is correct. We're not here seeking an amendment or revision to any of them.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Slavin.
Do we have any outstanding balances on the 25 cents per ton?
Well, I think there's an issue with the 25 cents. I think first of all, there's been a bill sent to us for the first time in May of this year. If you look at the conditions that have been imposed upon us in each of our years before you, there has never been any condition of any payment per cubic yard, et cetera, or any fees assessed against us. If you go back and look at the bylaws allow you to make a determination and assess this fee. I'm not sure what it really is, whether it's a user fee or an assessment, but I know it's contained within the bylaw. But it's not something that's ever been imposed upon us up until this point in time. We've never seen a bill from the town of Wareham. So I don't know when these fees are to be imposed upon us, whether they're appropriately imposed retroactively for a number of years. I think that's an issue that at some point we just need to discuss and take up.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mrs. Winslow.
I have an issue with that statement. The purpose of the fees is to assist the town in the cost of maintaining Glen Charlie Road, which a number of those trucks rumble down every single day at a speed of 30 to 40 miles per hour, heavily loaded. That road has suffered significant damage, sir, whether you're aware of that or not. In the town, the only way for the town to repair that road is to either take the money out of the general fund, reducing services in other areas, or to wait until it comes up on the Chapter 90 schedule. Now, I drive that road every single day, sir, and it is a downright danger at this point. There are potholes on that road that can cause serious damage to a car. Every time someone's vehicle is damaged, the claim comes to the town. That's what those fees are for. Now, I can't explain why nobody has sent you a bill, but when I read the bylaw, it's quite clear that that is applicable to this or any other earth removal permit. It's not at anybody's discretion.
Well, I guess we have a difference of interpretation. I'm not questioning whether you have the ability to impose a 25-cent fee on us. I just ask what it's for. Now, you're telling me it's for Glen Charlie Road, but that's never been indicated to us as to what the fee is supposed to relate to. The bylaw, and I can read it specifically, says that this permit is subject to a 25% per cubic yard or more fee as determined by the Board of Selectmen. Now, that same word, subject to, is used by you in the conditions of the earth removal permit. In paragraph 13, it says that this license is subject to review in 1 year. Well, we've had the license in 2006. Nobody has required us to come back each and every year. You have the option and have exercised that option on certain years when you've determined it to be appropriate to send us a notice and say, we would like you to come for an annual review according to your special conditions in the bylaw. And according to your bylaw, I'm perfectly fine with you saying, we have determined that you need to pay a 25-cent per cubic yard fee because we're allowed to impose that upon you in accordance with our bylaw. But to now say that you owe for 3 prior years when you have never advised us of that determination, in any business, whether it's ours or yours or anyone else's, you determine how you operate your business and what your charges are for your services and product based upon what your expenses are. You like to see your expenses coming forward, but to say to any business, we've now determined that we should have imposed a fee upon you over the past 3 or 4 years, so now we're going to do it and retroactively tell you, I'm not sure that you really have that authority. My client's not here to butt heads with you. My client just wants to be treated fairly. It appreciates the fact that it's able to do business. If you say that it is doing damage to Glen Charlie Road and there's a fund set aside and these funds are going into that to repair that road for the neighborhood, that's perfectly fine. That there's some justification for that. There's a correlation between the fee and what we're being asked to pay. But I don't think it's fair to send out a bill in 2012 and say, we now want to assess you for 2009, 2010, 2011. Maybe my client would have altered his business practice. Maybe he would have charged more for his material. I just don't think that's appropriate, nor, I don't think that's the way that the town should operate with its citizens. I think there should be, it should be upfront, we should be told, and we should be told what the assessment is for, what it relates to. I'm not questioning it, but no one's ever mentioned that before, whether it's an assessment or an extra fee, because we're charged $25 for the permit, and that, whatever it is that you charge, that's the cost.
Well, let me just be clear about a couple things. One, this money does not go into a special fund. 2, Glen Charlie Road was not engineered to handle a dozen 18-wheelers every single day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6. It wasn't. 3, I believe the estimated cost to repave Glen Charlie Road was somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million. So $25,000 isn't even 1% of that cost. I do believe, sir, that when you and Mr. Churchill were here back in 2011, that at that time, actually no, 2010, that at that time, one of the board members, former board members, did advise that we wanted these counts because we had this bylaw. We can certainly pull up that tape and watch the DVD and see if my memory is correct or not. But I myself am a little bit hesitant to reissue this permit until we resolve this issue. I mean, this issue does need to be resolved. I'm not looking to put somebody out of business. I just don't think that 25 cents compared to what the residents, I live out there. You may not be aware of issues, but I am. There are a lot of complaints from the neighbors from that area. Those trucks are noisy. They create a vibration along that road. There are large potholes that continue to reopen. There are small children in that area trying to ride bikes. So this operation is an issue to the general abutters. And I think you should know that. If they have not contacted your client directly, they're certainly calling us, telling us. Some of these are just quality of life issues that this board, can't necessarily address in a permit. But I don't think that 25 cents is a whole lot when you take into consideration that this is a residential area down the end of a 3-mile residential road.
Again, my issue with you is not with
Well-
imposing the 25 cents. My issue is being done retroactively. So I have no problem with you making it a condition of our license that we pay 25 cents per cubic yard or whatever the regulation says. That's perfectly fine. I think the only question we have is whether it's appropriate to do it retroactively. I know when I was here the last time, there were comments made, but I also know that I was told I was off the list and to go home. There was no discussion between me and anyone on the board about whether the fees were appropriate or whether you were going to impose fees or impose fees of 25 cents or 50 cents. There was no discussion of that at all. The discussion was that nobody knew why we were on the list.
I'm just going to say this, and I don't want to engage in this back and forth all evening. I mean, clearly we're each going to have our own position, and we can agree to disagree. But when this permit came up for its original one-year review in 2010, the former selectman, Mrs. Ekstrom, brought to your attention that we were not receiving the calculation reports and brought up the bylaw. We can go back and watch that DVD, and we can see what that conversation was. I don't have an issue with that. When you were called before this board in 2011, sir, it was me that pointed out that according to your permit, that you were subject to review in 1 year. That's 1 year after the issue of your license, and that the board did not have the ability to call you in every year of your license. So don't get me wrong. That wasn't, we took you off the agenda because there was a misunderstanding, and it was me that pointed it out. But I do believe that Mrs. Ekstrom was quite clear about the cubic yards being removed and about the bylaw. And we'll have to go back and watch the tape to determine what was exactly said and what the understanding was. But we did meet back in 2010, and we did talk about it.
Okay. All right. Mrs. Begley?
Thank you. Just to kind of reiterate that point, one of the reasons why, in my opinion, that the 25 cents per cubic yard was not charged to you, you didn't get an invoice for it, was because we didn't have any reports. I kept asking for reports from our office. They couldn't find any, but it was because we didn't have any. So on November 18th of 2011, JC Engineering gave us 2 years' worth of reports, monthly reports. These conditions on the permit are in addition to the bylaw. So the bylaw clearly says, records showing the amount of earth removal shall be provided monthly by the permit holder, and quarterly reports certified by a registered professional engineer shall also be submitted to the Board of Selectmen or its designee. The method of measurement of materials removed shall be determined by the town's engineer. The board may require more frequent reports if it deems that circumstances warrant them. So these conditions of permit are in addition to the bylaw that already exists. Then it goes on to say the permit fee of the 25 cents, and there are several other things. The site plans, is the area fenced in? Is there a fence around the area for the earth removal?
I don't believe so. Are you looking at the requirements of the new bylaw? Is that with the fencing?
Yes.
So that's where, and this is, I guess, this is where the bylaw came in effect. We went for the renewal. such as we are now. We've had the original permit, this started in '04. In '06, we were granted the permit based on plans that we submitted in '04, revised in '06. I believe, I'm not 100% sure exactly when the bylaw came into effect. And then we had our renewal in '09, which is the permit we're currently under right now. And at the '09 hearing, there was no mention of any deviation from, we went over the conditions that were in place from the '06 permit, and I guess, and I guess shame on me, the bylaw that came into effect, as it came into effect, I didn't personally, maybe I didn't recognize it, I don't know, but when we came back for this board, the board didn't mention to me, I was unaware of the new bylaw, and that's why you weren't getting monthly reports. And then in 2010, it might have been mentioned by Ms. Ekstrom. If
So
it
it was
was
2012 that we received the reports?
2011, when we came back in November.
2011.
The question was about reports,
Mhm.
and I believe within a week and a half or so, we surveyed the entire property and recalculated it all back to 2009 to be in compliance with the permit. And I guess regarding the 25 cents, as Mr. Bello said, my client basically has just said, are we subject to that? Are we subject to that because we received the permit in '09, even though it's written in the general bylaw, it's not a condition of the permit. So do I have to go back and actually comply right now with everything? Do I have to provide new site plans? And I guess that's up for discussion. I totally expected the 25 cent to be a new condition, and as part of the new conditions, I expected that to be part of the 2012 permit, and maybe anything else that the board wishes. But do I have to go back and comply fully with the bylaw that's in place of a renewal of a permit? I guess would be the question for the board. And that's what we're looking for the board's advice for. We're not looking to butt heads with the board regarding the previous balance and the previous bill. If the board believes that's appropriate to go back to 2009, my client has said that they'll pay it. I mean, it's not like they're here to say they're not going to pay it. I know there's a difference of opinion with the legal counsel and the board potentially on the wording. However, he's trying to protect our client, and our client basically saying, hey, can you really do that? And if this board believes that they really can, I think I'm in a position to say that we would have to comply with that. I don't quite believe it says subject to, so that's a word that could be phrased as once you impose it, then we have to do it. And I purely agree that 2012 we're going to get that condition. So I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but it is 3 to 9 trucks a day, and that's not all. Glen Charlie Road's not all the only. We're the only legal or the only permitted earth removal operation, and I think you realize that potentially on some of the other trucks that are coming down that road are much more in capacity than we are. The only legal, or the only I should say legal, the only permitted operation that is here. There is other cranberry bog operations and agriculture operations that are occurring on that road at a far greater capacity. So to pin it all on Graziano's 9 loads a day is not quite, I think, fair. But because there is that road is very heavily traveled, and we did notify all the abutters like we typically do. All the abutters have been very happy. It's in the conditions. If an abutter has a problem, to contact our office immediately. We'll rectify the situation. DEP did an on-site back in November. I believe someone complained. Not even an abutter. Someone else complained. We went to the on-site. DEP went out there, did not find any violations. I believe there's letters in the file to that effect from the building inspector and DEP. So we have an operation that maybe we're not in compliance potentially with the new general bylaws. And if you please tell me if you want me to go back and reincorporate all the new, or make it a condition of this new approval, that we have to comply currently, with the new bylaw, the bylaw that we're originally under. We complied with that, and we do comply with that, and we still have complied with that. We're out in the middle, and please do a site visit. You have the authorization, and you have the ability to do it anytime you want. They're not hiding anything. It's a wide open pit out in the middle of, over 1,000 feet off the road. You don't even know what's going there unless you look at Google Earth. So.
If I might finish? Thanks. Has a town engineer been out there and approved the method of measurement for the soil removal?
That's up to the board. They're more than welcome to come anytime they want.
Also, I'm familiar with the DEP coming out there, and I'm wondering, they did, one of the things that they noticed was that, I guess, that you can only have concrete of a certain size. And there were large pieces of concrete there. And one of the conditions of your permit is crushing is not allowed. Have those been removed?
I believe, yes, those were removed, and we actually talked to DEP, and I believe a representative from the town. The pieces that you were talking about were, he said, as long as they were less than 6 inches, then that's
Right.
acceptable. Some of the pieces were maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet, and they said they could actually, they didn't crush it. I told them to use a jackhammer or something because crushing is not allowed. So they didn't bring a crushing truck out there. There's about maybe 5 piles, maybe 5 10-yard loads, maybe, and that was dumped there.
Because, if you might, the letter says, to this end, Mass DEP recommends that efforts need to be implemented by the property owner to clean up and remove all existing dumped solid waste from the site. Given the amount of dumped materials, it is suggested that a 90-day time frame would be sufficient to conduct the remedial actions. Install gates or other suitable barriers at all property access points to prevent future dumping activities. Given that the observed dumping activity appeared to be historical, it suggested that a 180-day time frame would be sufficient to secure the site. So is that in the process of
That was
remediation?
done within a week. The piles that you were talking about were done within a week, and they initiated operations to old abandoned cars, people dumping things. That's what I believe, tires. There was people were dumping a stack of tires out there, so the property owner removed the tires from the site. At the front of the entrance, there was a lot of campers and trucks, so they were advised to take those out. There was a lot of things not not related to the permit that was required. I never received a copy of the letter that Ms. Begley's reading, but I know that all those operations were completed. They were completed very rapidly and quickly as soon as DEP was there. But there was no violations, if you will, with what was going on at the site. Removing vehicles and tires and things like that have nothing to do with the earth removal permit, because they were not in the area that this is. You're talking 100 acres of property. These are well out beyond. First, I've heard about gating. I can talk to my client about gating the fence. But you have at the entrance to the pit is a residential home that they're very friendly with, and they're advised to get names on anybody that's entering. But where do they, how are they dumping? How are they getting in there? There's many different ways
Well,
to get
the
in there.
Mass DEP recommended gating, and the earth removal bylaw specifically says provision for a substantial fence enclosing the excavation or quarry where any excavation or quarry will extend under original ground level or will have a depth of 10 feet or more and create a slope of more than 1 foot in 2 feet. Such fence shall be located 10 feet or more from the edge of the excavation or quarry and shall be at least 6 feet in height. So the height of the slope is significantly greater than that at the excavation site. I guess what I'm saying is that this is, ignorance of the bylaw isn't necessarily a defense. In fact, the earth removal bylaw has been at town meeting, several town meetings for revisions. So it's kind of been a review for all of us on an annual basis for a few years now. So the conditions of the permit are in addition to the current bylaw.
Okay, so what I'm hearing basically is fencing. An additional condition would be fencing, because you're talking 15-foot. I believe we're 15-foot high banks out there. I don't know, you say
It's
significantly.
not a condition
greater
of the permit, it's the bylaw. It's the law of the town.
But the bylaw
conditions-
also talks about submitting plans, submitting things we already have on record. You have all those on record already. So
So those are
anything
fine,
addition-
those are in compliance,
Okay,
Mr.
so-
Churchill. But what I'm saying is the items that are not in compliance, how do we charge 25 cents a cubic foot if we don't have the earth removal reports? We just got them in November. That's how it was calculated. That invoice was calculated by the reports we finally received.
We were in front of you in 2009 for the renewal of the license. Nobody mentioned any of this. So if you're saying that Mr. Churchill or my client is at fault, the board had that information, is much more knowledgeable about its own bylaws and when it's passed. And in 2009, what we were instructed was to abide by the 17 conditions, and we went through them one piece at a time. We were told that that's what we were required to do. And I understand the reading of the bylaw and those portions of it that say you shall. But that's not the case with the 25 cents. The 25 cents doesn't say that. It says, subject to the determination of this board, and it says 25 cents or more. So that means there's got to be some determination by the board. So if you want to impose some penalty upon us to say, in order to get your license, you have to pay X number of dollars. I mean, that, I guess you go ahead and do that. But what your bylaw says is subject to your determination. Well, you could have determined in 2009 to impose fees on us. It would have been part of our conditions. You could have done it verbally, but that just wasn't done. And that's the only issue before us that we take issue with, or that I take issue with. But my client's position remains, as John says, it wants to cooperate with the board. And if the board, under all of those circumstances, deems that we should have known and they should have, determined it on their own, listen, they don't want their license upheld. They don't want to be put out of business. They've been doing business for 40 years. They've been doing it in the same place. So, it's a determination that the board needs to make. We're just bringing up the issues.
Mr. Chair,
And
if I might.
quickly.
Thank you. I think that you're taking the definition of subject to rather liberally. The bylaw is the bylaw. None of us were here in 2009. I can't speak for what happened at that meeting. What I can say is that I was here in 2010 and we talked about this. And as I said, we can go back and watch the tape. The fact remains that this is not a penalty, a fee, a ransom, any other negative thing for the business that your client wants to conduct. This board isn't looking to put your client out of business. The fee is there because there are costs associated with your client's business that the community must absorb. It offsets the costs. It doesn't cover them completely in any way, shape, or form. And I just want to be clear with you on the record about that, we understand the business has been there for a long time. You may notify your direct abutters. Your direct abutters are not a mile down Glen Charlie Road where all those small cottages sit right up against the road. Yes, there are other agricultural operations out there, but the majority of their trucks come out during the harvest season. The other sand operation is not using Glen Charlie Road. So the majority of the trucks that people see are from this operation. I'm not saying that they're at fault for everything that's happened on Glen Charlie Road, but certainly weighted 18-wheelers aren't helping the situation. So I'll leave it at that. But
Thank you. Yes?
If I could step in briefly here.
Do I get to speak?
Sure.
You mind? Yes, I would. I look at this a couple of ways. One, I could have sworn I heard my colleague say that under Section E, Paragraph 5, that the permit is subject to a fee of 25 cents per cubic yard or more. And I could have sworn I heard her say that that was for the repair of Glen Charlie Road. And it's nowhere in the bylaw that states that. However, in the conditions of the permit, once again, we, under item 10, we say that a reasonable bond agreeable to both parties, if necessary for the repair of Glen Charlie Road, due to the trucks on Highland Inc. Now, because it's in the conditions, if the town never sat down and set this up agreeable to both parties, shame on the town. If the inspectors are not out there inspecting, shame on the town. It's not their obligation to conduct town business. If we never set a fee as a town, I don't believe in going back. It's like saying, come live in my house. And when you go to leave, by the way, it's $15,000. That's unacceptable. I should have told you up front that if you're going to live there for 6 months, you're going to owe me $15,000. Wouldn't you want to know that? So I think in terms of the bill that we just sent, we need to clarify that it's two separate issues to me. The bill and this hearing. If there's a bill that we sent and we can validate that we told the person that we were going to charge them 25 cents or more, because 25 cents is not spelled out here. It says, subject to a fee of 25 cents or more. We could have charged 30, we could have charged 35, we could have charged 40. What did we charge them, and where is that documented?
Mr. Chair, I think it's how you read the sentence. When I read the sentence, to me it says that you're subject to a minimum charge of 25 cents or more if determined by the Board of Selectmen. So in other words,
Well, that's not what it says here. It says
that is what it
No,
says.
excuse me. The permit is subject to a fee of 25 cents per cubic foot or more.
Or
Comma. That's where the comma is.
or more.
Right.
If the Board of
That could be
Selectmen
30, it could be 40, it could be 50 cents. And nowhere in there does it say that that money's to be used for Glen Charlie Road.
the money comes into the town because these types of, and this was all explained back in 2010 and 2011 when this conversation came up, that there are costs that are, you can't go, we're not going to file a claim with them every time somebody blows a tire on a pothole. That doesn't make any sense for them, and it doesn't make any sense for us.
And under the conditions of the permit, under item number 10, a reasonable bond agreeable to both parties, if necessary, for road repair of Glen Charlie Road due to the trucks of Highland Inc. It's in their conditions.
I understand.
Do we have a bond between your client and the town?
You do have a bond on file. Every year we submit a bond to the town. Let me just look exactly what the amount is.
So you've met, so you do have a bond on town, and you've met that condition.
Yes.
Of your license. Do you know what the bond is for, Mr. Churchill?
Just as a
So
side-
anyway,
Mis-
so that's my point of contention, that if we said it was 25 cents and we told the owner that, then fine, we collect the money. If we didn't, I'm just not so sure that you can go back into the past and say, oh, you know, we never sent you a bill, we never told you what it would cost, but here's your bill.
Well,
We could use that money. I have no issue with collecting the money.
I think if you go back to that meeting in
And we can-
2010,
And we can certainly do that.
and we can do that. I mean, Mrs. Ekstrom was sitting right next to me. I specifically remember her bringing up this issue. And then it was a full year later, in 2011, when Mrs. Begley asked where the reports were. We can't calculate something if that we don't have a report for.
I don't think the question is the calculation. The question is,
But we don't know how much
when was
they're-
it determined? The question is, when was it determined that 25 cents was the number? And where do we have that recorded? We have to have that recorded somewhere.
Just as an aside, because, I mean, it is in the bylaw, and this may have to go to town council, but this bylaw was approved, it was Article 38 of April 24th, 2006.
Right,
And
but
approved by
my
the Attorney
question
General.
still remains,
Right,
Mrs.
but I
Begley.
just wanted-
What is the number that we charge the customer? Was it 25 cents? Was it 30
I
cents?
understand what your question is, Mr. Holmes. I just want to express to Mr. Churchill that this bylaw was in effect in 2006, so had to be complied with in 2006. These conditions on the earth removal permit that was amended September 9th, 2008, is in addition to this bylaw.
Right.
So it was, that 2009 permit was subject to this bylaw.
I got that. We got
But
that
I'm
part.
talking about the rest of
question
it,
is-
about the monthly reports, the quarterly reports that we never got.
Well, yeah, but the question is on this money. When did we determine, when did the Board of Selectmen determine what that number was?
I don't know.
I don't know either. We can find out. Mr. Titlebaum, go ahead.
Well, I appreciate Attorney Bellows' I think, construction of the law, or his attempt to tweak it in favor of his client here. But the problem I have with subsection E5 is it says this permit is subject to a fee of 25 cents per cubic yard. The problem with saying, well, we didn't do anything, or
Are
prior
you going to
boards
leave
didn't
out the
enforce
words
that.
or more?
Or more would be the determination to be made.
Right.
The issue here is if there were any question as to whether a fee were to be assessed at all, the law would read, this permit may be subject to a fee of blah, blah, blah. When you say it is subject, that's your record notice that, hey, I'm gonna have to pony up a quarter for every yard I pull out.
Or more.
Or more. Of course, we cannot
That's what
say
we
to
can
these gentlemen today, we're
Not
gonna
now.
charge you 30 cents backwards, because we never made that determination.
Right, but 25
But
is there.
25, I think was well within the purview that,
right.
that they had noticed that this was gonna happen. You know, I don't think we need to belabor this much more. Mr. Churchill has indicated that his client would pay it. I don't think we have to go back to past meetings. I don't think we have to review tape. I don't think we really have to waste any more time on that, given his statement and the fact that I think we can rely on what he had to say. So
we can fix that, and we can fix that clarification going forward this evening, so that there is no question 3 years from now.
Yeah.
yes, that we can make that condition number 18 in the permit, and then nobody can say.
Agreed. Mr. Slavin,
I'm done. We just finished my answer.
anything else?
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion. Are you ready?
Oh, boy.
Am I ready for what?
The motion.
My motion.
Oh, go right ahead.
Thank you.
Well, is there anything else? Discussion?
Well, I can't express enough.
Excuse me. No audience participation.
No.
No, it isn't.
I can't emphasize enough that my expectation is that not only are the conditions of the earth removal permit, but the bylaw are complied with. So that a town engineer would be invited to the site, that the DEP recommendations, I'd like to see that in writing to this board, that they've complied with the bylaw, with the issues that we've brought up, the issues that I've brought up about fencing in areas that may pose a danger. I mean, it's definitely an attractive nuisance to children. And any other issue that I brought up today with the site plans, et cetera.
Well, it's easily covered in a motion.
Yeah,
That's-
okay.
With conditions.
Just
Mrs. Winslow?
Here we go. I move that this board approve the renewal of the earth removal permit for Highland Inc., subject to the existing 17 conditions on their existing conditions of earth removal permit, adding number 18, that Highland Inc. agrees to be in compliance with the Wareham earth removal regulations bylaw in all aspects, and adding number 19, that the board has determined that 25 cents per cubic yard shall suffice for the term of this permit, which shall run from June 16th, 2012 through June 16th, 2015.
I have a motion made and seconded on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? 500. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up.
John. Mr. Chair? I don't know. I'll continue, Mr. Chair. Can I just ask a question, Mr. Chair? I know. I don't know. Can I?
Mrs. Winslow?
She stepped out for a second. May I
What is
just
it? What is
may I
that?
just ask a question? Is it possible, would my colleagues entertain the idea of having a letter go from the town administrator to Highland Inc. With the issues that we brought forth, the concerns for fencing, reports, those kinds of things?
Well,
Just
it's part of the bylaw.
right, but
There should be a
evidence
cover letter
evidence
with
that
the
they're
renewal.
compliant.
I agree. I don't have an issue with that. Anybody got an issue with that? No issue.
Thank you.
I think I'd like to see it, a detailed letter that goes with the conditions
Yes,
and explanation of the renewal.
as we
not-
voted the motion.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Now we're on still licenses and permits, number 7D, one-day all alcohol license for Redmond Hall.
Is anyone here from Redmond Hall on this? Anybody? Nobody's from Redmond Hall. This is
Shall
for
we
their
just-
annual clam bake on Sunday, August 5th.
Any questions
You
here
have a
for
motion?
anyone?
That's something they do every year.
Can I have a motion?
I move that this board approve the one-day one-day liquor permit for the Redmond Hall, the annual Redmond Clam Bake, for Sunday, August 5th, that goes from 12 noon to 5 p.m.
Motion made.
Second.
Question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? 400.
Next, Mr. Chair, is item number 8, sewer business.
Mr. Campino?
Good evening. Members of the board, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Campino?
Yes.
What do you have this evening?
Ooh.
Since you don't have anything on the agenda,
right?
I would expect it to be urgent.
I didn't. There was nothing on the agenda. I'm here because I'm here. I didn't know if the board had any questions. I think one of the questions you were going to address is the July 14th
That's
meeting.
correct.
And so
An
I can update you on that.
Thank you.
I had sent to the board an invitation, a recommendation, an invitation to get out to the general, the residents of the contract 2. Hopefully to get that out this Friday if the board feels that that's okay. Put it on your letterhead and send it out for the invitation. Confirmed to date is, of course, CDM. We'll have Chris Sharp and Mike Judici. From Deshays, Hicks, and Perry, Mark Deshays has confirmed that he would be there.
Right.
Giosio, I talked money to Mark Giosio and to Frank, and they actually said they weren't aware. And so I invited them, and they'll get back to me. And the email did go out. So
what was the time, Guy? 8 o'clock.
We had said 10.
Ah.
We had said Saturday 10 o'clock. Tentatively, we're thinking of the auditorium, maybe the cafeteria because the chair's cool, temperatures, the whole 9 yards. But here tonight, you said it may even be the auditorium.
Well,
so we'll
I
know.
was thinking that if cable would produce it live, and it's easier to do it in the middle school because that's where they do the school department meetings. Do you need to? Is that on the invitation? Oh, it's got to be on the invitation.
It's on the invitation, town hall, but I can add or site to be determined, so that way they know that.
Let me call cable and
Okay.
confirm.
Okay.
Either way, and then I'll give you a shout.
Okay.
Give you the location. Doesn't change the time or date. It
No.
just,
Or the
we'd
day,
like
the
to have
time.
it live if we could. It's going to be taped, and I don't think it matters.
Okay, that'll be good. So those will go out, and we'll have some presentations generally by the participants that'll specifically speak to their area. CDM will speak about what they did, how they determined the cost, what they did. Mark Deshays will speak to how he determined his costs.
Right.
Gioso, we asked them to speak about police details, cost details, who determines how many police officers out there, and maybe address the cost of the policing. And then,
Did
of course,
you hear Mrs. Gums's question this evening?
well, she had a question in betterment, and to my knowledge, and I'll have to verify this, but I thought, last I looked, I believe it was the 210 meeting, they estimated Parkwood to be $15,900 approximately in that ballpark, and it came to $15,010. They estimated 22 and it to be 21. So I've got but there's so many, and so we can pick a number
If you
and
could just do a little research
yeah,
on
this
that to make
I can
sure
give
that
you
we're
probably
able
3
to-
numbers.
You know my feeling on the meeting. Is that,
Absolutely.
We're encouraging residents who have a question to send an email, or call us, or send a letter, so that all the players will be in the room, so that every question can be answered. The goal is to come out of there without having to say, "We'll get back to you." That's the goal.
I agree.
Right? You and I agree on that.
Absolutely. Do our very best. We'll bring all the information we can,
Yep.
supporting documents, and we'll say what it is, and to our knowledge, and that's the best we can do. And I think we're all willing to do that. That's for sure.
And before we'll try to get you out of here, can we move the gift from A.D. Makepeace and talk about that now while Mr. Campino is here, so we can get him home?
Sure. To give you an idea, I just wanted to know what it is. What I imagine it is, I bought it on the picture, just so you know. Oh, great. Just so you know, we're talking about this a gift, and I figured you want to know what the gift is.
And I will say that I did get a call from Linda earlier, an email actually, that AD Makepeace will not be here for this presentation. They didn't want to make a big deal about it.
Yes, she sent me an email also, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Linda.
So perhaps we could just have Mr. Foster send a note of thanks on our behalf.
Ms. Campino?
Yeah, it was a good gesture. They had X amount of dollars in the budget. This is a $12,000 gift. They had X amount of dollars in their budget. They found the product cheaper, and they had a surplus, so they decided to share the savings with the town.
Okay.
This particular macerator is going to go into Lopes Field. We have issues there with grinding up the solids. It gets into the pumps. So this is really a great addition. We actually need 6 in the community, but this is a tremendous addition to our pump station in Lopes Field. And as summer comes on and the flow picks up and the solids come through, we're going to be able to really see some savings on the downtime of the motors, energy costs. So we're really excited about it. So I encourage the board to accept the gift.
You have a motion to accept the
Mr.
gift.
Chair, I move that this board accept the gift from AD Makepeace, which is a grinder monoflow 5 HP TEXP for our pump station at, did you say, it says Heinz Field?
Yes. Lopes and Heinz, they're
The same.
They're the same field, yes.
The value of this gift is $12,000. The board wishes to thank AD Makepeace Company for their generous gift to the Wareham Pollution Control
I have
Facility.
a motion made.
Second.
Second by Mr. Slavin on the question. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained, 5-0-0.
Mr. Chair, since they weren't here for us to thank, perhaps Mr. Foster could just drop them an email expressing our appreciation.
Great.
Um,
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
No,
Campino.
just-
You enjoy your...
Very, very quickly, because I told Guy that if he has any issues, that he needs to mention them so they can go on a future agenda so that we don't get them at the
We're going to
last
see
minute.
some policies this week.
I emailed
for
you
next
today.
week. Okay.
I emailed you today on some policies. The biggest thing facing us now is the ordinances. There's a packet. I don't know if they got some.
Is that
Yes, that's right. And you have some previously.
I have it.
And she has. And why I
Is that
want to
what we're
ask.
gonna go through?
Yes. What I want to ask if you folks have it, because we gave originally, but I can give 2 new copies for yourself.
I'd appreciate an updated copy.
I will do
like
that.
they got.
I will do that.
I don't
Absolutely.
have a copy.
And that's
Thanks,
what we're going
Guy.
to go through in this other things.
You have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
I believe, Chief, did we already do the recognition of the Wareham Local Emergency Plan? That was that. Okay, so now we're up to your surplus equipment. And you have attached us a list. And I don't think this requires all too much explanation, but
No, it's just, I think it's self-explanatory, and they're all junk, believe me, and
we believe you.
we
Have
couldn't
a
get
motion.
anything for them if we tried, and God knows we tried. We did.
I move that the board approve the surplus equipment list from Chief Richard M. Stanley to John Foster, interim town administrator, and Stephen Holmes, chairman of the Board of Selectmen, dated May 16th, 2012. The surplus property are old mountain bicycles that are non-repairable.
Motion made.
Second.
Second. Question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Abstained, 5-0-0.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you,
Okay.
Chief.
We have a letter to the DOR. Mr. Chair, shall I read the letter into the record?
If you wish.
We have a letter dated May 29th, 2012 to Gerard Perry, Director of Accounts, Division of Local Services at Mass DOR. Mr. Perry, the Board of Selectmen requests permission to deficit spend under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 31, for the payment of judgments in the amounts of $42,500 and $207,636.97 respectively. It has been explained to us that the actual payment should not have been made prior to your approval. So that is read into the record, Mr. Holmes, and I don't know about my colleagues, but boy, I would like to know how this happened.
I would respectfully ask the board, I've been advised not to sign this document, and I would respectfully ask the board to allow me more time to investigate this matter, and I'm not comfortable putting my name on this document to the Department of Revenue.
So
Well,
moved.
Mr. Chair, Can you withdraw that for a quick second?
Withdrawn for now.
Thank you. I do believe that this board may conduct an investigation, and I would move that you, as the chairman of the board, head up a full investigation into how this situation occurred and provide this board with a report.
I was waiting for someone to make that motion so that I could discuss a little bit.
I made the motion.
Okay. Second? For discussion. Apparently, and I received another long letter. I haven't even had a chance to read it yet on my way out of town hall today. There were settlements that were paid from the town. There's $42,000 and a $207,000. The $42,000 is my understanding from my brief hunt this afternoon. It came out of our legal line item in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that money was in that 225 or 250 is to pay our legal counsel. And so the money was taken out of that account. So what's actually happened now is Mr. Bowen's firm is not being paid, just so you know, because they can't write the checks that we just approved tonight or the last one because that account would be in deficit.
I thought the legal account could go into deficit.
Well, not without permission, apparently. And there's some question as to whether or not these judgments actually should have come out of that account or not.
Well, I
They were
understand
these are
that.
not for legal bills. These are for, because they were not judgments by a court.
Actually, one of them was.
Not the one I'm discussing.
Correct.
So the 207, I believe, come out of Rick's, the Chief's, I'm sorry. And I need more information on this. This letter I have says that we have one approval from the Department of Revenue. That's not entirely accurate from my understanding. How this works is the Board of Selectmen would send a letter by the chair and the town administrator seeking approval of the Director of Accounts to deficit spend. We have not done that, and we deficit spent. So we have no approval by the state other than a clerk who says that they'll probably do it for us. Fair? Fair assessment? It'll be done. Okay. And until I know more about this, I can't put my name on this piece of paper.
Okay, well, Mr. Chair,
I would
we've...
indulge the board again not to take a vote for me to sign this document.
Well, the motion currently is for this board to conduct a full investigation.
Well, that's fine. But I would
Absent-
respectfully again ask the board
Absent-
not to vote for me to sign this document.
Absent a motion in the affirmative for you to sign that document, you cannot sign that document. So the motion to the board is for us to conduct an investigation to determine how this occurred and perhaps, if necessary, develop policy to ensure that this does not occur in the future.
Could I ask Mr. Sullivan to come up to the table so we could ask him just a couple
Sure.
things?
It's up to him if he wishes.
I'm going to be. Derek,
Yes.
I assume that you're going to be, or Mr. Sullivan, sorry. I assume that you're going to be supplying this board with as much information as possible, but were you in the position of financial analyst when all of this occurred with?
Yes, I was, and if I can speak a little bit, give a little bit of time on this. If you look, I've got a certified copy of the spring FY11 town meeting. You will see in other budget articles there is a settlements line for $242,065.
Mm-hmm.
That line was not entered into the VADAR system in July. The town accountant staff that we had at the time did not have the time to enter in the other budget articles. Somewhere in between, we had to pay that. So that was paid because it was police salary for one of the settlements out of the police line. One was illegal, albeit I don't know whether you'd call it a settlement, judgment, or award. That was paid out of the legal line. Somewhere along the line, that $242,000 was not accepted as an article during the tax rate process. Now you're speaking about something that's 6 months after the fact.
Wait a minute. So the line item was voted in the affirmative at town meeting,
Correct.
but then it wasn't entered in the Vadar system.
Correct.
But then, what are you talking about, that it wasn't?
Somewhere within the tax rate process, which was done by the accounting firm of BMAG, somewhere they said that the Department of Revenue was not accepting that line. And the reason being was we voted the budget as a whole, and then they voted also other budget articles out of there. That was done with every single article except the settlements line. So the DOR did not accept the settlements. However, that's brought up to us around May of this year.
Mm-hmm.
I always believed, that we would just have to transfer the money back into that line.
Because the money exists.
Because the money existed.
Right.
Now, it does not.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Mrs. Begley, you used the present term, and he's using a past term. You said exist, and he said existed.
Well, that's what I'm trying to clarify.
That's what he's going to explain now, right?
Yeah,
as best you can.
As of today, I'm told that money doesn't exist. So we have paid these.
So that's why we're in a deficit.
That's why we'd be in a deficit. I'm not going to try and bore people with the Mass General laws here and such, but it does allow for payments of final judgments and awards. Jerry Perry of the DOR, Gerard Perry, the language that we got from that letter, that's their language. Except for the thank you for your assistance part, I added that. Doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
So
$242,000, to follow up on Mrs. Begley's question, $242,065 was put aside to cover this. $242,065 was spent, and it was never covered. I mean, we never.
Right.
The money was spent somewhere else other than it was intention to spend on these two issues.
Correct. They were paid out of other lines, and I think ended up being closer to $250,000 because you wouldn't know the awards.
Right.
Yeah, that was all the money that we had set aside in there.
So the money we set aside was spent somewhere else, because otherwise you could just transfer it back.
My only thought is during the tax rate process is maybe they lowered our estimated local receipts, because if we look at my budget is a simple Excel spreadsheet. If I take from the revenues, I'll go into deficit. If I take from the expenditures, I'll have a surplus. So my thought would be, if you took $242,000 out of my expenditure side, I should in theory have a $242,000 surplus. If that money doesn't exist, something had to have happened on the revenue side to offset it.
Well,
and two questions. One, obviously we understand the impact of the legal withdrawal or spending. Our town council's not getting paid.
Correct.
How do we understand the 207 that came out of the police budget? How does that affect the police budget?
He will be in deficit if we don't get that money back into his account, and those will be illegal deficits then. In other words, when it's an illegal deficit, you're basically hit twice for it. So and I'm not saying to send out the letter, it's the board's purview. Why the letter's a good thing. It would be considered a legal deficit, and you wouldn't be hit twice on there, it's my understanding. So this would be a benefit to us.
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. Winslow.
I do believe that we will be meeting again next week, correct? So does a week give you enough time
I
to...
need to have more time on this, because that just really just makes it worse, in my opinion.
It
But
would-
it's my name on it,
Yeah.
and I would just appreciate your indulgence.
Yes, well, we've.
The
we've
new
given you that.
accountant, I spoke to him today, obviously asking questions. He's not even, he had offered to come tonight, to be honest with you, so I give Brian a lot of credit. And I told him not to. He wasn't around when this happened. I shared some of this letter with him. He hadn't seen it. So I didn't feel comfortable having the gentleman come here his first night and sit here and ask a bunch of questions he can't possibly answer. So we've copied him on all the emails now, right?
Correct. I forwarded that email.
So that he's now aware of what's going on. He's going to look into it and try to dig and see how we can come up with an answer. Because to me, that's $242,000 that we thought was in an account,
But
and it's not there.
I understand that, and I think that you're right. I think we do need to discuss this further. But my question is this. These monies were expended some months ago.
They were expended last July 2011 or August, right around
So
that
just the
time.
beginning of the fiscal, or 2011, yeah.
Yeah, so
just
within
the beginning
fiscal-
of the fiscal year. So we're just
Correct.
finding out, because I thought that we had some audits, et cetera, like 6 months ago.
That letter you got.
Well, this I have.
I just got that on my way out of town
Right.
hall.
It's the one from last week is the one he's referring to.
But we've been audited. I mean, we're kind of, we should be following along as we go, and this has been discovered just recently.
We've set the tax rate. We've had free cash certified, and you'll see lots of emails from me to Chief Stanley saying, yes, all we have to do is transfer the $200,000 into your account. We'll be fine. That's why we're doing these transfers.
Mhm.
And I have a very unhappy chief on my hands.
Yeah,
So.
he's behind you, and he's got a gun.
Do you want to get in the dunk tank?
He has a gun,
We
brother.
could make some money back
And then you
that
go to
way.
transfer it. But the problem is, to be clear, the problem is when you went to there is no place to transfer it from.
Correct. That line was eventually set up, but now I'm told it's a zero sum. There's nothing in there. So
Let me hear from the left-hand side, please. Mr. Titebaum?
Well, obviously, we need to get to the bottom of this. I mean, obviously, I don't think this is quite as dramatic as the $919,000 problem, if for no other reason it's a lesser sum. But it's something...
Stick to this place.
Yeah. I would support the chairman in his efforts to try to find out what happened procedurally. And if he needs any help from me, I'm glad to offer it.
Mr. Slavin? Comments? Questions of Mr. Sullivan?
No, I have no questions of Derek per se. I believe what we should do is put this on hold for a week. If we make any decisions at all, it has ramifications coming in the fall. If we do it the right way, it will minimize the implications for us. If we go ahead and do something without looking at it fully, it's going to cost us a lot. So I would ask everybody just to put this on hold. Come back in a week and let's get the information and see where we're at.
Well, Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Slavin, I believe that the motion was to investigate the situation.
Maybe investigate's a rough word.
That was the word you used.
I'm really upset about this.
I understand. I'm upset too, and that's why I think it should be thoroughly vetted.
That's a better word.
So that a week from now we have an understanding of what occurred, so that we can address any potential weaknesses in the processes.
Yeah.
Mrs. Winslow, I think we'll end up with the same result, just getting the basic information and going through it, investigating or whatever. Derek's going to come up with whatever we need. John Foss will get us what we need for background information, go from there. But there's also underlying things that have to be involved with this as well when we make the decisions.
But I think that's the whole point of taking a close look at it.
Well, that's what we're doing now, really.
Well, that's the motion that's on the floor. It hasn't been.
And for the record, this is the third time that we've asked BMAG to be here, and they have failed to appear. I would just want that on the record.
Mr. Chairman, whether
The gentleman's wife had a baby.
Yeah. This time.
We hired a firm.
Right.
If he can't make it, some of his surrogates should have been here. Same guys who were in there working on the internet and all that stuff. One of them could have come here and explained that letter that Mrs. Begley has held up a couple of times. So I don't want to hear about babies. I appreciate the baby, but he has a firm that we hired, and it's number 3, and they've failed to appear, as well as not showing up at town meeting. There's a lot of issues there. It's not on the agenda. I can't go into that. But they have an obligation that they signed up for when they signed that contract, and I have serious issues with that. So, thanks.
Can you call for a vote on the
And
motion?
I will, we'll catch up over the next few days. That's the letter.
There's a motion and a second on the floor.
We have a motion made and second. Anything else on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? 5-0. Thank you for your indulgence.
Mr. Chair, if Mr. Harbor Master would be willing to come up and...
Thank you, Mr. Campina, for your efforts this evening. Bye-bye.
Mr. Harbor Master, this says discussion. This is going to be the Reader's Digest discussion, right?
Yes, it is. Actually, all I need is an approval from the board for the seasonal soft-shell clam locations.
Okay. We have
a motion?
Mr. Chair, I will move that the board approve the seasonal soft shell
It's a long night.
clamming areas as described in a memo to John Foster, interim town administrator, and the Board of Selectmen by Mr. Harbor Master Gary Buckminster, dated May 17th, 2012.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Mr. Slavin on the question. All in favor?
I just have just one quick question. I'll be quick. Are these posted?
Yes, they are. They're posted in 3 locations: Tempest Knob Boat Ramp, Onset Pier, and our office over at the multi-service.
Because we're not reading out all the locations, so when people go in for their permits, they'll also get that
Correct.
in hand. Thank you.
Mr. Slavin?
Gary, do we have any historical areas that are closing that are not included?
No, we do nothing closed at this time.
Thank you.
Just the standard DMF closures.
I mean, before, so we have a motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 4-0. Mr. Buckminster, I do want to relay one comment from Tim from Performance Max. And he would like to extend his sincere appreciation of you and the Harbor Master team and the lifeguards who worked over Saturday and Sunday in somewhat adverse conditions with the weather.
Yes.
And he wanted me to pass that along to you and your team. So, job well done.
Thank you very much.
And Chief Stanley, he also wanted me, I meant to say that to you earlier, he also wanted me to pass along to you the work that the police department did and all of your folks in traffic direction and making sure that everybody was safe. He wanted to pass that along. And if you see Mr. Evans on the EMS side, they had a couple of issues. I think you had one rescue on Sunday out of the water.
Yes,
One of the triathlon people had to get in the boat. We had a couple of injuries on the route, and our EMS team was there. So, Mr. Foster, if you could make sure that we pass that along. Job well done to all.
It's a great team to work with. Tim's an excellent guy.
Oh, they're great. I mean, it couldn't be easier working with a good group like that. We've invited them back, guys, Alan went after him to get more scheduled events before the end of the year. I reiterated that in my answer today, by the way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harbor Master. Good night.
Okay.
Okay, now we are up to the discussion regarding the screening committee for the town administrator's position, which has been advertised. Thank you, Mr. Teitelbaum. And that advertisement, however you want to say, closes, Mr. Foster, when?
Closed.
Closed.
Monday.
Close.
Done. So,
You have 21, you think?
I think in excess of 20.
wow.
I've received, I don't even know, to be honest with you.
You're
I haven't
kidding.
looked at them. I have not. Because as you all saw in a response to an email, I said that all applicants should be under lock and key. I have a bunch that, because it said to send me an email, I've never opened the emails. I've just bypassed them until after tonight's discussion, and then I'll forward them to Janet to put in the packet. I don't know the names. names, I just bypassed them. So, that discussion is, where do you want to go from here? What's next?
Well, Mr. Chair, as you know, I had recommended that we utilize a large screening committee. That was actually the brainchild of Attorney Bowen's wife, who serves on the Situate School Committee, and this was the same format that they used recently to hire a school superintendent. I had previously emailed the board the proposed screening committee, which was made up of what I defined as stakeholders with the town administrator. Those were people that deal with the town administrator on a regular basis, as well as some community groups that deal with the town administrator on a regular basis. In conversation with Attorney Bowen's wife, she said that in their experience, by using a large, diverse screening committee that's made up of these quote-unquote stakeholders, that any of the final candidates that were eventually presented to the school committee would have been excellent choices. This is a great way to weed through a large number of candidates by putting everybody in a room that has a significant interest in working with that individual. That included, unfortunately, I wasn't able to reprint it out for myself, but it included the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, the chairman of the school committee, the chairman of the finance committee. I believe it was a department head representative that was drawn at random, an employee representative drawn at random. Geez, I can't even speak. Town council, a representative from the Wareham Village Association, a representative from the Onset Bay Association, the town moderator. There's a couple more I can't remember off the top of my head.
Mr. Titlebaum, comments?
Yes, I recall your plan here. I think I like it, except to the extent that I would prefer to see 2 selectmen on there. I think that, ultimately it's going to be this board's decision, and I think the closer we can get to having more selectmen on there without running afoul of open meeting issues, the better. So that would be my suggestion if you've got a motion.
I'm not going to make a motion until we go through the table, but I mean, what I did when I structured that was I based it on the structure that they used in Situate. It can, it can change. I don't have a particular issue with 2 selectmen.
Mr. Slavin?
Basically, my only concern was whether we were going to do it ourselves or whether we were going to hire out. So we basically got to the point where we're going to do it internally. So we'll go ahead with, I believe, Mrs. Winslow's suggestion and follow through that way.
Mrs. Begley?
Well, as you know, although I understand the motivation that Mrs. Winslow has, I disagree. I think that I personally, if I'm going to participate in this process, and I will, as per charter, to hire a town administrator, I want to see every application. My concern is this. There may be a candidate that I would very much like to see interviewed or interviewed a second time. I just want to see every single application, and I completely disagree with having the school superintendent on there. We are not, it's not a participatory process to hire a school superintendent, and I just disagree with that particular member being on there. I'm not a big fan of the committee, of a screening committee, because again, I want to be part of the process from the very beginning right to the very end.
My opinion is this, that I have no issue with inclusiveness of other members of the community. I do, however, want to be able to elect myself as I see fit to attend or not attend. We just went through a similar process with Mr. Pina, where the Board of Selectmen all 5 of us. We have 5. No, Mr. Schneider was here. We had 5. Mike was here. Yeah, I think he attended the first Saturday. I think he was here for the first Saturday, and we extended ourselves. So it wasn't the Board of Selectmen, but we extended ourselves to a screening committee by including 2 members of the Cedar group. So I agree with the screening committee. I don't know that I necessarily agree with all the components. We can go through that. But the screening committee, in my opinion, should be an extension of the Board of Selectmen. So we have the 5 of us and then, 5 more people. I don't care how many people. I don't care where they come from. We all have to work with the town administrator. And the other thing that I would say is that I said this about the Cedar director, but didn't get very far, is that, we've probably received, John, about 21, I think, guessing how many times I saw the word town administrator, maybe 8 to 10. Some of those could be duplicates. I don't know, because I never looked at them. I like to see them all have a shot, unlike the Cedar director position. I've never been involved in something like that, so I wasn't very happy with it, as you know.
Mr. Chair,
my opinion is, I agree with the 5 of us, and an extension is a screening committee. I agree with that.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to not attend any of these beginning, and I'm going to tell you why.
That's up
There's,
to you.
but
You're
there's,
free to attend or not attend.
but the problem is that if all 5 of us plus the additional people can't be here, you're not giving every candidate a fair shot. That's the problem.
We all couldn't be here for every Cedar
And,
meeting either.
but that's the whole point. When you go to a job interview, and if you're going to interview all 20 candidates, that's the purview of whoever. Doesn't matter to me. You're not interviewed by the same people 2 or 3 times.
But you're asked the same questions.
Not always.
Yes, you are.
But then, even if you're...
Wait a minute now. Don't take this way off the reservation. In the case of the Cedar director, and I just said I wanted something similar, we had a list of 6 questions or whatever it was. And if I wasn't there, you asked my question. If you weren't there, Ellen asked your question. It was the same 10 questions or whatever the number was to every candidate.
It was.
The same question.
But the point was, and if you remember, one of the rules of the screening committee was that they had to commit to attend every meeting, because several candidates we missed. Some of us couldn't be there for an entire meeting. So how do you know whether that candidate was good or not?
Because you trust the committee that
the whole point is for you to form your own impression.
Well, we can agree to disagree. I believe the screening committee should be in addition to the 5 of us, if we elect to attend every single interview and take part in that process, we should do that. We're the hiring authority for this.
Then why don't we just interview all 20 of them and make a decision? Let's put them all up here on TV and make a decision. Why drag these people through a process with the same people, Mr. Holmes?
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about we spent an entire Saturday, over 6 hours, interviewing for the Cedar people. Then we sat down and narrowed down the list. Then we spent another 4 hours re-interviewing them so that we could then bring them back on TV. Do once.
No.
If we're all 5 of us are going to sit here and interview them, do it once and get it over with.
No CEO of an organization would expect to come for one interview.
But no CEO would sit in on every interview.
A person interviewing for a CEO's position?
Is not going to sit in with the same people interview after interview after interview. They're going to be interviewed by different teams of people so that eventually the recommendation comes from people who are going to have the relationships with that individual.
I've interviewed CEOs before.
Did you interview them through every phase?
But every phase was different. There was a screening process, and then those who made it to the maybe top 5.
Made the first cut.
It was a whole different set of questions. They've had now time to study the town or whatever the business, and then that second interview was nothing like the first one. The discussion was more in depth. And then on the third interview, there were two people. Kind of like, what do you call it, Celebrity Apprentice or something. And then that discussion was with a large group of people who were listening. And the questioning and the detail and discussion were very different than the first. It wasn't three of the same interviews. That's how you weed people down. You get into the detail.
But what I'm saying is that if what we decide to do is that the five of us are going to sit, I don't want to sit through 3 interview processes again.
That's up to you.
I don't think it's effective. I don't think that we end up with the best qualified people when we do it that way. What we end up doing is we end up just picking people off sort of almost at random. There's no real process in place. This is the biggest, most important decision that this board's going to make.
So why shouldn't the board be involved?
The board is involved. They're
No,
the
you're
ones that
not
make the
involved.
decision.
You're taking the board out of it.
I'm not taking
All
the-
I'm saying is, I agree with your screening committee. Well, I don't like that word, but I agree with that. Just allow the board to attend.
The board can do, Mr. Holmes, there's nothing wrong with it. My point is that if the 5 of us are going to sit down and conduct these interviews, then let's conduct the interview and let's hire somebody.
That's our intention.
Right.
But don't do it 3 times.
No, wait
It's
a
a
minute.
waste of time to the candidate and it's a waste of time to the members of the board.
Mr.
Well, I would
Holmes, if I might, I
I
think
would-
that you can't have a single interview process and think that you're going to hire someone.
I've never done
It's beyond the scope of my imagination.
There are always phases. to
There's
this
always phases. There's the initial phase. I mean, I was on the screening committee for some time, and we kind of went round and round with Mr. Foster for a position in town. So you start with the many, you whittle it down to fewer, and then you whittle it down to the top 3 to 5 candidates, and then we have the interview process on TV in public. But having a workshop to go through the initial applications, that may, even though Mr. Holmes would like to interview all of them, there may be some that may not be a good fit.
Well, they might
right
not
off
be qualified.
Or they may not be qualified. Exactly.
I should have
They may not
changed
meet our criteria for the position. So we'll whittle it down. It doesn't mean that we're going to interview all however many candidates that we have. But I think that it's imperative that every member of this board, so if they so choose, participate in the process. And I think that it was very effective the way that we conducted the screening committee for CETA, that we had the entire board and we had adjunct members on that committee, that screening committee. So I think that, for me, that's a good compromise. I mean, I will not compromise that every member of this board should be involved from step 1 to the final step.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Sure.
One of the things that we've done here is we've asked people to submit resumes, and yet we seem to not be. We're going to look at them, and then we're going to interview these people. Can't we use the resumes, which every corporation does, as a means to eliminate the ones that are so marginal right from the get-go? Can't we, as a board, do that first?
I
And then we've got-
apologize,
then we've
Peter.
got some
I didn't
participation.
use the word qualified when I said interview all
Right.
candidates. What I meant were
Right.
those who were qualified.
Exactly, but if we've got 25 resumes, I'm hoping, anyway, that 10 of them you can just knock out right out of the box, and we don't have to interview those people.
They're sealed when they came in, so that they would be held.
Let's
in
knock some out of the box.
so that they would be held in confidence, so their
Right.
names aren't spewed all over town.
Absolutely, and
already.
I agree with that.
And at the appropriate time, we'll open those up, and once this decision is made, we'll open them up and get the process moving. But what I meant to say was, all applicants that are qualified should
Right.
be interviewed. That's what I meant.
Fair enough, but I think that when we look at the numbers that we're talking about dealing with, I think right from the beginning we're going to be able to limit that down to a more workable number than say 21, 22, 25.
We don't know,
right?
Because we haven't seen it.
Exactly.
Mr. Chair, I agree with
Can I,
Mr.
Begley,
Titlebaum.
1 second. Could I give Mr. Slavin a
Sure.
shot at this, please? Alan, any comment? Because you haven't said much.
No, my concern with the whole process is that you have 22 or so people right now. You have to basically set some parameters of what you want for basic qualifications, and you do a screening through the resumes. And then we need to have maybe 2 or 3 steps to get to at least a number of 10, something manageable. And then you can start your interview process if you want. But you need to go through and see where it's at, because the job that we're offering is not an easy job. This job is going to be extremely difficult. Someone coming into this is going to have a hard shell and everything else that goes with it. And to sit there, you know, and just blanket everybody through, you can't do. You have to have a plan. It's as simple as that. And the plan really means how are we going to break it down to a manageable number to talk to. So if you're going to put a plan together, that's okay. But we can't just, well, we're going to knock 10 off here, we're going to do this. You have to decide how you're going to do this.
Well,
You set your ad up of what you want for qualifications. That's the basic piece right off the bat.
So what if trying to keep this in agreement, if I think what I hear you saying is, the Board of Selectmen, the 5 of us, when we unseal them, should meet, 5
Right.
of us. Prior to meeting, we should have a scorecard like you suggested for the CETA director.
I'm not going to get involved in this.
Okay, that's fine. The Board of Selectmen should review those 20, whatever it is, with the scorecard. And then, if
Right.
there's any weeding to be done at
Right.
that point, we do the weeding.
That was going to be my suggestion, Mr. Holmes, was to schedule a workshop as soon as possible, because
Well, we need a
we-
workshop.
Well, however, executive session, because that's what, we did a similar process with the CETA director. But I don't want to see this process, I'd like to see it move forward as quickly as possible,
Right.
because we have assured Mr. Foster that we are, we're going to,
So-
he's going to have a light at the end of the tunnel for his 2 full-time jobs.
So let's move it. So number 1, we unseal and have an executive session with the Board of Selectmen,
Yes.
so that every member of the Board of Selectmen gets to see all applications, and then we review through those, and we
Bring it
just-
down.
If there's weeding, there's weeding. Step 2 would be the first round of interviews.
Right.
Who would be sitting interviewing the people?
I'd like to see all of us do that.
Understood, but there's a list that you have.
No, I suggested the list because we don't have the money to hire a consulting firm, and that's what Attorney Bowen's wife said was successful in Situate. So this is how most of these positions are hired for. It doesn't matter to me. To me, sitting down with people 2 or 3 times is redundant, and I don't think
Okay.
whatever the board wants to do is fine.
Is there, in addition to the Board of Selectmen, if I'm hearing correctly, suggestions on who outside of the Board of Selectmen should be in on this process? Oh, there should be people.
I don't know. I'm not shaking my head no, and negatively. I'm saying it's kind of like a no shrug.
No, there was a
As
suggestion
part of the
who, what,
process.
Finance Committee Chairman? That sounds reasonable, more than reasonable, right?
What? Why the CETA director? That doesn't make any sense to me, though.
Yeah, he has to work with the superintendent, too.
Okay, so finance, I'm just writing these down.
What about,
Because right now there's no list, so.
what about
and
the
then
chief
what's
of
the other one,
police?
school,
What about the chief of police?
police?
You need someone from school department, school committee, or the school superintendent. It's a major piece of town. They all have to work together.
Okay, can you invite the school committee to appoint a member to the group?
Mhm.
Doesn't have to be the superintendent.
Right.
Could be the chairman of the school committee, or his.
Well, if he,
his or her-
if he's so,
Or his or her designee, right?
right.
Anybody else off the top of your head? You talked
Well,
about
are
Wareham
we-
Village Association.
You know,
Take
having
Village
nonprofits get
Association.
involved, it's dicey for me.
Planning?
Well,
What about
that sounds
municipal
like,
maintenance director?
you know,
I mean, the planner,
Mr. Chair,
I'm trying to think.
how many people do you want on this committee? I mean, to make it within reason.
Right.
Has to be reasonable.
I don't know. I'm not asking for a particular number. I'm just asking for a list of people
Well,
that you might suggest.
which ends up,
Here's 4.
which makes 9.
That's 9.
Well, are we giving this committee the
It's not a
power?
vote. They're not
No,
gonna
it's
vote.
with us.
They're not
Exactly.
gonna vote.
So this is just to make recommendations, right?
Right. It's just-
Yeah. So we're not delegating anything here.
No, I'm not saying delegating, I'm
Right.
saying have 9 people.
I just wanted to clarify that.
I'm saying 9 people is reasonable, going beyond, much
Right.
beyond that.
Okay, you weren't looking at 9 as an odd number then?
No,
That's
no,
what I
no,
was-
no, no.
okay,
I'm
okay,
looking at
gotcha.
a
Looking for
reasonable
More-
number.
More suggestions on the list.
Municipal maintenance director, that's a big, it's somebody who has to work
There
closely
should be
with the town
somebody from the town
administrator.
administration on here. Finance. We got, this is the finance. When I said finance, then we're talking about the finance committee, correct?
Right.
See,
So right now you have the,
John, not to be personal, did you apply for the job? See, I would like to see Mr. Foster up there.
Sure, if you want.
Put him in a short
Or
process.
his designee is in the role of treasurer, collector, accounting. Somebody from our accounting department.
Since I would be working for this person, I wouldn't want to be involved in it.
Problem.
good for you,
See, that's the other part.
good for you.
Although, I've certainly interviewed more of my share of my bosses in the past.
Mm-hmm. But I think, no,
Someone who what?
no.
All right, let me write it down, then we'll go through the list and chop off as needed.
The mayor.
Moderator. Someone from town finance, or
You
you
already
think?
have it.
You think all
FinCom.
of, huh?
You already have FinCom, right?
Well, that's not from town finance, though.
But
It's a
again,
Fin-
it would, you,
It's a FinCom committee.
but it would also be kind of the same point that Mr. Foster was making.
Well, maybe
We've
the
got down
accountant.
several of them, though. The chief of police, obviously, is.
But when you
part of
say
the
that the,
administration,
but when you
so-
say accounting, are we gonna have our brand-new accountant come?
I think that would be a great idea.
No.
What, the point is that we're hiring an administrator.
I know.
And you're gonna have nobody from finance, the finance committee
I
is not
know,
finance.
but,
Our biggest problem is money right now.
you
And
know,
you have no representation from finance.
I have a question. Because it seems like we're getting bogged down with this. Can we start the process of bringing down the number and scheduling interviews and then come up with all these people? Or do we have to come up with all these
Well,
people
look,
tonight?
I'm thinking that Tuesday, we will, sometime before Friday, I will get with Janet. She's off Thursday and Friday. I'll get with her in the morning, because I have a meeting at 8:30 there. Give her what I got through emails.
Who? Janet. Mhm.
And then have her, before she takes off, work with Miss Rebecca and put that packet together. And then let me get it off to you all.
And they're
Okay.
sworn to secrecy.
It will not be electronic.
But it's a confidential.
Absolutely correct. It will not be electronic, and I would ask you to come by, I'll let you know when it's ready. And then I would ask you to come by and pick it up, please, and sign for it.
Yes, absolutely.
And.
Can we
and
schedule
I'll tell you
something?
what, I would really be upset to find any of these names
Anywhere.
on the internet. And especially these documents, because there's only one person who has seen some of them. And there'll only be 5 of us who have all the copies.
Well, Mr. Chair, can we schedule something?
And then you'll have a couple of days to look at it, and
Right.
on Tuesday, we will begin that
Okay.
process of
Okay.
weaning them down.
At 6
Or going through them.
At 6 o'clock.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
There's
we're
a couple
gonna,
other things, but they should be fairly small on Tuesday.
6 o'clock, you think that's enough time?
Well,
Yeah,
Or-
let me see
I'm
how many
almost,
we got. Maybe 5:30. It might be 5:30.
I'm
Can I
thinking we
just-
just devote a couple of
5:30.
hours to it.
can I just say, in my experience of us being deluged with, for other areas, I had the same concerns when we met that, oh my gosh, we're not going to have enough time, we're going to be here until the cows come home, and that wasn't the case. It was surprising to me that everyone came up with the same list. Don't you agree with some of the process that we had,
Yeah.
Mr. Foster?
So, let me do that. And then on Tuesday, though, you're going to have a couple more days to think about this. Step one will be done. And then you guys really have to define this list of who else you'd like on this hiring committee.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Right?
Fair enough.
And please remember those packets are very sacred. There are people who have put their careers out there at this point, and have trusted in our confidentiality.
Absolutely.
So I won't keep harping on the point, but it's sacred to some. Mrs. Begley, I put this on here.
Yes,
real
item G,
quick, and I
update from the
explained to
School
you
Bus
why.
Action Committee.
If there's any update from the committee, if you could tell us what's happening, what's going on, what's the latest news?
None.
And maybe when the last time was that you met?
The last time we met was well before town meeting. There's not been any communication, there's not been any scheduled meetings.
Is there anything planned that you know of?
Not that I know of. The last meeting that we had agreed to, it wasn't a motion, we had agreed to table outsourcing the school bus transportation for the time being. And then following that same evening, there was a school committee meeting, and they voted to for the debt exclusion for 5 buses, unbeknownst to the rest of the School Bus Action Committee. That's my last update.
Comments on this, Alan?
We basically we've been going for years now, and we have no plan. And we just continue going along with no plan. And we're not going to solve the problem. Buying, leasing, whatever we do, 4 buses, we need to finally have a resolution, make a decision. I mean, what will happen is we'll have this year. Come next year at the same time, we're going to need 5 more buses, and we'll be sitting in the same situation. So I understand what they're doing, trying to get something done, but again, it's just something where we're not doing anything. We're just finding another way around it.
Again, I'm not putting this on, I didn't put this on to spotlight Mrs. Bagley, but she is our liaison there, and I just wanted to get an update. Maybe I've missed something.
No.
And apparently I've missed something.
You missed nothing.
And she doesn't call meetings of the committee. She's just a member of that committee.
Correct.
So, okay. Well, there's not much we can do there. Chief?
Huh. We should have encapsulated everything.
Yeah, I apologize, Rick.
No problem.
I just thought you were so interested in town business you were staying. I forgot that this was on here.
I actually was. I
So I
served in a couple
apologize.
of committees with town administrator positions in North Andover, bringing on new guys, so.
Thanks.
I think it seems like it's the right path you're taking, so.
Mr. Titlebaum.
Chief, as we've discussed, thank you for coming before us tonight. We appreciate everything you and the people who've helped you out have done to bring the Onset Police Substation to reality. What this board needs to do now is to approve what you've done. That's our town charter responsibility. So what has occurred is we've got a motion here for that. And with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the motion.
Go right ahead.
I move
Absolutely.
to authorize the police chief to execute a lease with the Onset Fire District and/or to ratify such lease for the use of the Onset Fire District property in Onset for use as a police substation.
I have a motion.
Second.
Made and seconded. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? 5-0-0. Thank you, Chief.
And-
Sorry
Yes, and it-
that was so quick and easy. But
It was,
why
but
don't you take 2 minutes, and and just talk about the Information Welcome Center, please, in
Yes.
Onset.
First of
In
all, I want to
Onset.
apologize for.
And no more ties in
No.
Onset.
I don't know.
Next time I will cut the tie. You know, I was.
I hope not.
was.
But listen, I want to apologize, and I want to thank you and Peter. for grabbing me
No
on it.
apology necessary,
All right.
Chief. You know, we're the ones, we're the politicians. We're supposed to know the town charter. You're a department head. You're not really supposed to know these things. So
Things are going very well. We're still looking for some more volunteers. We are working in that process. It's going well. We have a lot more foot traffic than I ever anticipated already. I was very surprised, and a lot of information is being given out. We have community information there that we were able to get through Sal Pina, who, by the way, is a great find. He's been tremendous help, so he's been able to bring in a lot. So it's a real community effort. So it's a great deal, and I am thrilled with the people who stepped up to the plate on it. So hopefully we'll be able to bring some pretty factual stuff to you. We've hooked up cameras, computers, everything, and you saw the numbers. It's all on. None of it's coming out of taxpayers' money. So
you're gonna have videos of Mrs. Begley driving through Onset Village 26 miles an hour. I say. I do try to stop at the crosswalks anyway, because now I think you can see that crosswalk from the state.
Well,
from
I'm going to
the
get
Welcome Center.
What I have to get is I have to get some of those crosswalk signs for out there too. So that's coming.
The Information and Visitor Center in Onset. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'm teasing with Mr. Slavin because of the next item. Mr. Slavin. We did achieve it in Onset. Just so you know.
So you're going to remove your chair from the Merchant's Way so you don't sit
Just
there
so you
anymore?
know.
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
This is a project that we talked about probably over 2 years ago. Actually, our harbor master, Gary Buckminster, and I were doing a cleanup down there with several of the selectmen and other people, and we kept looking at the train station, and we thought it'd make a nice business visitor center. We thought we would be able to get some volunteers and some contributions, so there'll be virtually no expense to the town. And this is kind of sat, on hold for quite a while now. So I think we'd like to go back and see if the people are still interested to help and see where we're at, and if we can put this through at minimal cost and bring it back to the board with an actual, program or proposition for it. And also, you could have the police could actually be in and out of there as well as another spot. It would basically be a place where they would have advertisements for local businesses. There'd be visitors would come in if they didn't know where to go. There'd be different, pamphlets and brochures for the area, et cetera. Plus, the local businesses would be able to advertise what they do. Real estate brokers could put their information, et cetera. It's just something that's needed right now. Downtown Main Street, Wareham is really suffering. This might help quite a bit.
And if we could, Mr. Slavin, if we could include the chief in some of this.
I already did.
If we do enough of these, we won't need a police station.
That's true.
Because we can
like
have 5 or
Superman's
6 Mullins all over the town of Wareham.
Wave of the future.
All we need is a jail somewhere, right? Now, listen, I'm teasing you, as you know, and I apologize for some of that. I've been teasing Alan since I know this is a pet project of his. And seeing his face last Friday I just couldn't miss the opportunity but to bust your chops a little bit. And I want you to know that personally I support you in your efforts and will do anything I can do to see your dream here come alive. So
As long as it doesn't cost us, the town,
that's on a serious
anything.
note. Well, that's the challenge.
Has
and
to be
minimal
free.
cost is the
Keep
way.
getting that drug money,
No,
Chief.
free.
I need a loan of drug money.
Mr. Titlebaum, any
Yeah, if they
thoughts
can generate
on
money,
this-
that's awesome.
The subject?
No,
Of the
I think it's a
visitor
great
center?
idea. It's it's been that property's been sitting fallow for quite a while now, and it's time to make some use of it. Yeah.
Mrs. Begley, anything?
As long as if it's free and if it can generate money, even better.
Wow. Mr. Winslow? Okay. You're in charge, so you tell us what you need and how we can help. Chief is always available to help as well. I did mention it to Mr. Pina. And Mrs. Connaughton, I spoke with her as well. But I told her you weren't going to be asking for any money. You were going to get it done.
That's right. Free.
All right, next up, Economic Development Business Group.
Who's that?
That's me.
Me. You go ahead. I have some comments on this one.
There'd been some discussion about trying to do economic development in Wareham and getting it kick-started. There's been discussion about trying to get like a business focus group, key into some of the key businesses in Wareham. Highway Concrete is an example, AD Makepeace, just to name a few. People that are successful at the higher level and at the middle level have like a focus group where they sit down and they talk about how their businesses are going, and what they need to survive today, what they need in order to grow, and where they think that we can help as a town. And they would basically, we would come to them and ask them for that information. It's not an unusual thing to go outside when you have a business and go find a focus group to give you information. You just put the pieces together and it comes back. This is something which I think would work out well for us, because we need to jumpstart the economy in town. And we all have our own ideas, but the people at the ground level know what's working, what isn't working. So this would be a good way to get it started. And I'm pretty sure we can get the key business people to sit down and work with us. We just have to go out and ask them if they would help us.
My comments are that I've received several calls from local business owners. As some of you know, I deal with them every day. I try to talk to somebody every day. And there are a couple of groups of business owners that are networking. But it was never more evident than last night at the CETA meeting. And we met at, we're moving our meetings all over from, last month we met at Bay Point. Last night we met at AD Makepeace. And, you know, it was never more clear than sitting there listening to Mr. Hogan talk about the plans and the class is the word I think he used, paraphrasing, but and the way that we developed that class, and the more I think about it, the more this idea needs to be really worked on and developed, because in today's economy, we're trying to attract hotel chains. We're trying to attack national chains. And, you know, and one of the worst things that could have happened to us in the last 3 months was the decision by Best Buy to close that little sub-store in Wareham Crossing. You know, when you look at our circle of business, most of it's water. Now, we're not hiring fish, and they're not opening businesses. But when you look at the circle that all national groups look at, it's water. So there are a couple of local groups, and one of the suggestions was that maybe we begin this, and I mentioned your ideas, obviously, and is hosting very different than what takes place in Town Hall there annually, but hosting a CEO forum here in Wareham for local business people and some potential local business people, and have that a formal group. I don't believe is necessary, but it was really clear again last night in the discussions about businesses where people didn't even realize the GATRA routes, right? These folks are trying to do something with parking. These folks are trying to do something with transportation, and
no communication.
There's that interweave of having information from CETA director, having information from the Board of Selectmen, having town information, all in the same room, right? As people are throwing their ideas against the wall, is what's missing. So, personally, I think it's a great idea, and I think maybe that whole idea of a CEO forum, call it a CEO forum, much different than a jobs fair, where it's local businesses and potential local businesses come together. It's not a Chamber of Commerce event. It's nothing like that. I mean, this is just to sit down and talk about strategy and economic development. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Mrs. Begley, comments?
No. Oddly enough, no.
Huh? Kara? Peter?
One of the things I talked about when I was running for this seat was the need for us to have a beach and a tourism commission, and I think that kind of dovetails in with your thoughts about, developing hotels. I've had many people talk to me about the potential we have for kayaking on our rivers, ocean kayaking, using our beaches as a springboard to the ocean for these people to promote ourselves in this regard. So I think in concert with sitting down with a business roundtable, that's something perhaps the board might want to consider going forward. And I may ask for that as an agenda item at some point in the future, so we can discuss how such a beach and tourism board would be constituted, who we'd like to have on it, who the stakeholders are, and all that sort of thing. So
Just send that in, we'll get it on an agenda.
Grease lightning.
Okay. Grease lightning is right. So, Alan, I don't know what the intentions were, but you're going to do it. I'd love to work with you on this and put together this forum. Sure. I think it's great. Great idea. It's a real important issue in terms of the real estate people as well. And they're all doing numbers on what we have here. And again, we have to really embellish that whole circle because most of it is water. Okay, Mr. Foster.
I just have one quick item. I've been in contact with the Inspector General's office regarding free online and in-person training with their office regarding procurement. They do offer an online course that all of our department heads can take, or whoever would like to take it, but there have been questions from different department heads as to what they need to go out to bid for and when they should go out to bid. There is an online basics course, and I have contacted Joyce Emmett, the director of the MCPPO program from the Office of the Inspector General, and she has offered to put together a day of free training for us.
Oh, wow.
Excellent.
That's it.
Would it be here?
Great work, Mr. Foster.
Cool beans. You got a date set or?
Right now, they're looking for topics. I have to get back to her with whether we want just the basics. They could do different things, building design, supplies and services. I think right now we probably just need the basics, so everybody knows. If you have items in your office that you use yearly and it's $5,000 or over, it should go out to bid. What items are exempt? What items are not? All different related items for supplies and services. That's what I'm looking at right now.
All right. Liaison reports.
Liaison report.
You guys don't have any. Mrs. Begley.
Oh,
I have
is that
one.
why you were laughing?
We're going to take care of that in a minute. Mrs.
That's-
Begley.
I really don't. I'm happy to be able to tell the Board of Health tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon when they meet at 4, tomorrow in the Town Hall cafeteria, that the 118 Sandwich Road will be resolved by June 30th, correct? I can report that to them.
Johnny, I'm going to put that on next week. And if you could have Miles here to make sure he gives us an update. Please. I already wrote it down. Mr. Winslow?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The Recycling Committee had expressed some concerns regarding some conversations that and statements that occurred at town meeting. They asked me to read this letter. However, I'm going to just highlight the facts out of the letter because I'm not thinking that we need to get into the whole thing at this point, but just so the board knows. The Recycling Committee has a revolving fund which is allowed to have up to a $50,000 balance. However, The fund, the revolving fund, presently has $2,307. That is obtained by donations. As we all know, the recycling center collects things like cans and glass and other things down there that they're able to cash in for money. The $50,000 is the cap on the recycling revolving fund. We all probably remember the issue of setting caps on revolving funds can only be a percentage of certain things from the DOR recommendation. While there are no employees at the recycling center that are on the payroll, and by that I mean they're paid through the town payroll system where taxes are deducted and Social Security is paid, the center is staffed with volunteers, but we do have a paid coordinator, and that individual has been in place for the last 4 years, and they're paid as an independent contractor. So they get paid on a 1099, if you will. That position provides information to agencies such as the DEP, CMAS, and other towns. It tracks and reports the solid waste and recycling, does the volunteer schedule for the center, has written some grants that they've been awarded. And this is a 12-hour-a-week position. So what happened at town meeting was to eliminate the revolving fund, to fund it at zero. However, they really just want to make sure that the public is clear that there's no $50,000 in their revolving account. Their revolving account is not funded with tax dollars. There is a $5,000 line item in the budget. That's what pays the independent contractor. So they asked if I would be kind enough to set that record straight.
May I ask just a question about that?
Sure.
Sure.
If the monies that they take in can't, what's going to happen? Because the monies they're taking in by donations or whatever, I mean, the price of scrap metal is quite high right now, but is not covering the expenses. What kind of strategies are they going to use, or are we going to use, to keep the center open without it costing us any more money?
Well, I mean, the committee's been discussing this situation for many, many months, and in fact, I would say at least a year now, the potential of the center closing. And, you know, it's unfortunate in that they have worked hard to keep the center staffed on a volunteer basis, and they do the best they can, but they're working with a 12-hour-a-week employee and volunteers, and the town gives them $5,000 out of a $60 million budget. They asked for a $3,000 increase in their line item. But yeah, but we weren't able to do that. So I think that, you know, we as a board have to decide whether or not this is a priority.
But are there other strategies they could be using? For example, selling the scrap, or I know that they have to pay for the containers there. Is there any way to get the containers, either the use of them donated or the cost decreased? I mean, is there ways to save
really
monies?
for their meeting.
But I'm just asking.
It's not.
Well, and Mr. Chair, I'll answer the question. We have an employee that works 12 hours a week, and the bulk of that time is spent trying to ensure that their reporting requirements are met, that their staffing is going to be adequate so the center can open when it's supposed to. They have successfully written a few grants over the last year to add more funds. I mean, those things take time, and time costs money, and that's one of the reasons why they asked for the increase originally. You know, they're caught between a rock and a hard place. I mean, there's a lot that they want to do, a lot of great ideas that they've thrown around, but they have to be able to do it. And most of the people who are volunteering at the recycling center do either work other jobs or have family obligations that only allows them to give a couple hours a week, which we appreciate greatly. And I would like that on the record. They're an amazing group of people that are at the recycling center, and they're very loyal.
Duly noted.
I don't have the answer to the problem it would break my heart to see this fall apart, but that's really where we're heading right now.
Thank you. I want to read into the record as part of the CEDAR report. Mr. Peener, I had a discussion with him about expanding his circle into other areas. So he prepared a letter which I signed to the Mayor John Mitchell, New Bedford. Dear Mitchell, Mayor Mitchell, I'm writing a request that Salvador A. Peener, Community Economic Development Authority Director, be appointed to the Greater New Bedford Workforce Board to represent the town of Wareham. Mr. Peener is a former Workforce Board Director and will bring a wealth of workforce development experience and expertise to the board. As you may be aware, the town of Wareham presently has no representation on the board. Consequently, there is no one to advocate for the workforce needs of our community. The lack of representation, in addition to the decrease in workforce resources, has resulted in decreased access to the Satellite Career Center located in Wareham for our adult job seekers, and limited access and resources dedicated to the youth of our town. As the lead elected official, I recognized the challenges you face in your community and the difficulty associated with configuring the board to meet the requirement of the state. The appointment of Mr. Pena will add expertise in the areas of community and economic development and provide the town of Wareham with a voice at the workforce board table to advocate for the needs of Wareham residents. I ask that you look favorably upon my request on behalf of the town of Wareham and appoint Mr. Pena to the board, blah, blah, blah. I asked Mr. Pena to give me 50 of these a week, and I'd be happy to sign them on his behalf so that he can represent us out into that circle. The greatest news that came out of last night is some of you remember 2 years ago, the beginning of the summer, it might have been around the time of the triathlon, the chief, he left, sorry. We actually had to buy some plywood, paint, and we actually painted plywood signs indicating where we wanted people to park in Onset. I remember carrying the signs and getting splinters. Last night, a tremendous vote of CEDAR was to purchase 2. Well, our goal is to get 4. CEDAR approved the purchase of 2 electronic solar transmission signs, top-notch stuff that will be controlled, can be controlled at the police department as to what we want to say on the signs. These are $15,000 a piece. We'd like to have, we think 4 would work well in our community. So I believe we placed the order today. So in 2 weeks, you should see the first 2 signs go up. Again, these are going to be on trailers, so they can move all over town. In September, we've applied for and given it the initial okie dokie to a grant, which will get us 1. So that's 3. However, that money won't be available till September. I have sent a message to Senator Brown asking if there's any way that he could intervene. I mean, maybe we could get that money up fronted now because we really don't need the sign as much in September as we do in June. But that only gets us to 3. Our goal is 4. So I want to thank the CEDAR board. This is a matter of public safety. It's a matter of economic development to be able to advertise events in town on these signs and then direct the people when they get to town in the event of an emergency or an Amber Alert or any of those types of evacuation requests. The other day in Onset, when we had that issue where we couldn't get home in the middle of the day, on the way to the scene, somebody could have dropped one of those trailers down at Depot with a sign saying, this is closed, you need to go around. Created a very dangerous situation for people driving into Onset when they couldn't get further than Bertino. And when you went up and around in the back there, I mean, you could almost run people over. Things could have spilled out into the back. So it's a matter of public safety. And so I want to thank the CETA board for their recognition of that and their generous approval to buy the 2 signs. That's all I got under that. Under the policies, everybody has and has had time to review the liquor packet that we sent out. Okay, so if we put that up next week, we're good to go?
Mm-hmm.
The liquor? Yes? Get that out of the way. What else we got? Oh, I went through these. Let me pass that up to Peter. Liaison reports. As I promised last week, I went through. I received your emails. And the only thing we're going to discuss on this right now is the fact that I've added additional liaises. Yes, it is. I have to break down and go buy some reams of paper. I'm sorry. I use both sides as a normal routine. If you just go to the plain list, basically there's two documents. One is the total package, and one is just the summary list. I took into account everything you asked me for in your emails that you sent. For the most part, I don't think a lot's changed. We did have, obviously, the replacements of Mr. Cruz and Mr. Schneider. I do need a vote of the board this evening. We started it last week and never finished it on the Affordable Housing Trust.
Mr. Chair,
So if I could get that done today, I would appreciate it.
there are 2 committees that I informed you their scheduling no longer worked with my availability.
Okay, I have an answer to that. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Well, did you assign it to somebody? I would make a motion. I believe Mr. Titlebaum was interested in that.
As was I.
Need a motion.
I'll move for
So
Mr.
that
Titlebaum.
we have to vote on that
He's the
because
one
that's
that
not a liaison, it's a voting member, and it's
Okay.
still hanging out there.
You didn't put it on the list anywhere yet. Well, since
No, I
Okay.
need a vote.
all right, I'll move that we appoint Mr. Titlebaum to the Affordable Housing, since he didn't get any other special projects. So
Motion made second on the question. Nothing. All in favor?
aye.
All opposed?
No.
Abstain? 410. Okay, if I could take you down the 4-page document, if you will, just for a second. Everything is pretty clear on page 1, page 2, and I apologize for the 4 sheets, but I don't use both sides.
On
So-
page 1, can you just put affirmative action officer, town administrator?
Oh, they never changed
All
that.
right, I'll just put TA for now. I think there's one other spot where he's on there. Page 3, I did not make any additions. Page 4, I would direct your attention to the bottom after, Affordable Housing Trust, that's for the vote. The Joint Transportation, Ellen and I. Okay, on the original list, there was no district commission liaison. There was only a Wareham Historical Commission liaison, so I added that one. Next one down, we've talked many times about having a liaison work with our sewer director. I included that. And the third one, I recall it being mentioned once before, it was mentioned in one of your emails about a liaison that could possibly attend assessors meetings and talk to us about assessors. Because those are all critical issues that we never hear about. So having someone there to bring information back and forth would be fine. What I did was, on this list, I took all of your emails. I did the best I could. I think I came up pretty even on the numbers. Somebody mentioned horse trading. There'll be no horse trading here. You're all free to switch, do whatever you want. You're not members of these committees, except for certain ones, like Mrs. Begley, myself, Peter. You are members of SERPED, Joint Transportation Planning, Affordable Trust. CARA's on the Plymouth. You can't trade those.
Well, no, and that's one of
We
the,
register our names with those folks.
right.
But any of the other stuff,
But that was one
if
of the,
you want to horse trade and do whatever you want to do, that's up to you.
But we're free to attend any of these.
That's right. Yeah, you're not a member of these
We don't
committees.
have to be a liaison to attend.
Right.
Because I've attended many that I'm not liaison to.
And so if you want to switch off and you want to officially switch off, just let me know or let Janet know. And you're certainly welcome to do that.
The only thing I would point out, Mr. Chair, is that we've got myself and Mrs. Winslow both down for Tremont Nail.
I do?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But other than
Maybe
that,
that's the page I couldn't find in my printer. How did I do that? Where do you see that?
This
It
first
says
page.
liaison. Oh, on the. But that was Peter.
But it's only
Winslow's
you
pleasure is.
on page
That's
3.
fine.
right.
Right.
Mr. Chair, the Plymouth County Advisory Board
Yeah.
is something that I've enjoyed very much. However, the last few meetings have been very difficult for me to attend. They're always on a Thursday, and the last few have been quite far away. And unfortunately, the way my husband's schedule works, it's very difficult for me.
You
to
want to just put in an alternative?
Well, that alternate has to be committed to attend the meetings when I can't, and it seems like I've only missed, well, Mr. Slavin covered for me last week, but other than that, I've only missed one meeting due to illness. They're a great group of people, but yeah, if you're gonna keep me assigned to it, then we're gonna need an alternate that's available on Thursday nights. Yeah, they're a great group of people. I love
You
them.
want to just continue to do it the way you're doing it?
As long as we have an alternate that,
Do we have to register?
yes, you have to register the alternate, yes.
Well, I'll leave that up to you. You want me to add that? It's fine with me. But that's a registered thing, right, Kara?
It's registered, yes.
All right? Fair enough? Anything else? Does that work? I mean, I think it's...
Oh,
That's a
the
lot.
only,
I mean,
the
it's a
only
lot.
other, the only other issue that I want to bring up while we're all sitting here is that the Capital Planning Committee has changed their meeting times, and I'm not going to be able to attend. It's on a day that I'm scheduled to work. So,
Why don't you just switch off with somebody if you feel the need? Or
well, I just don't, sometimes people get upset when you're not available to attend their meetings, and I'm not going to be available to attend their meetings. So,
you want to switch off?
it would probably be best, yeah.
You want to deal with that on your own?
That's fine.
And just let us know.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion
Second.
made. Second by Mrs. Begley. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, wait.
What?
Wait. No, I didn't. I did not read the vote. The last piece of this, I did not read the vote. The last piece of this, and oh my God, I can't believe I forgot this. I have asked Janet, and maybe she should have it done by next week. I've asked her to go through, I'll call them groups in the town of Wareham. These are groups that have never been sanctioned by town meeting. They're not boards and commissions. They have never been approved at town meeting by any appointing authority. And I've asked her to go through and find these people. Some are task force, some are, they've been assigned over the years. and she's going to pull all that together for us so that we can clean that up at the same time we're cleaning up our policies. Okay? All right? Now I'll accept that motion to adjourn. Oh, okay. All in favor? All, blah, blah, blah. All right. 5-0-0. Thank you very much and have a great night.